Hello.
All right. Hey, guys. Thank you for joining us back today on the Digital Learning Channel. My name is Kyle Chandler with the Digital Innovation Team. And we've got some special guests joining us here. We're going to stream a webinar that they've got made available for us, and they're going to be available for live chat support in the YouTube chat. So we're going to have Christina and Beth with us.
All right, hey guys.
And Christina and Beth are going to be there to answer any questions you may have about the seminar. So I wanted to kick us off just a minute or so early so we had time to view the entire show. But thank you for being with us. Be sure to let us know who you are in the chat, what department you represent or school. And don't forget the JCPS Dig In hashtag on Twitter. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Krista, Krista and Beth's presentation. They will also again be joining you in the chat for live support. So thanks, and we appreciate you being here.
Good morning and welcome everyone to our fourth webcast in the series of supporting webcasts that are being conducted by our special education regional cooperatives. As a reminder, these webcasts will be recorded and available on the KDE website. On the screen in front of you, if you haven't done so already, the co-ops have provided you with QR codes to link to the resources that they're going to be sharing with you today. And on the next slide, we have for you a Go Soapbox QR code with the access code there. Should you have questions or comments about the presentation, you can leave those there. If you would like to be contacted back with one of your questions individually, you'll need to leave your contact information. If it's just a general statement that you want to be considered, we will consider those statements in future FAQs moving forward. And if it's a question regarding the content that's being presented today, we will get that information to the regional cooperatives. So I'm going to just pause for a second to allow people to get access to that QR code and remind participants to please mute your microphones. It seems like everyone's doing a really good job as we're adjusting to this online world. And also turn off your video so that we have enough bandwidth for everyone to enjoy the presentation. So I will go ahead and leave it up to our presenters to move forward, and thank you all for participating.
Hello, and welcome to Specially Designed Instruction for students with moderate and severe disabilities. We are so excited to be here today for the fourth installment of the DOST webcast series. Earlier webcasts have shared information on specially designed instruction, guidance for progress monitoring, and accommodations and modifications in the context of non-traditional instruction. While our target population today are students with the most significant disabilities, many of the strategies we talk about today could be used with any student that may need more intense support. As we begin, please take a second to make sure that your mic is on mute so as not to distract the other viewers. This webinar was developed by a task group from the Kentucky Special Education Cooperatives. Some of the members of the task group will be presenting today's information. We value your input and hope you will provide feedback on the information presented using the QR code shown here or following the bit.ly link. This code will be shown again at the end of our presentation.
Specially designed instruction is what the teacher does to instruct, assess, and reteach the student. Students with the most significant cognitive disabilities will require specially designed instructional strategies, as well as substantial supports and accommodations to have meaningful access to the standards based on their communication, functional, and academic needs. When planning for specially designed instruction for this population of students, we must consider the characteristics you see here on the left of the screen. These may include things such as limited joint attention, significant physical and medical needs, and limited stamina and alertness. As we consider how to provide specially designed instruction to students with the most significant disabilities, we are mindful that students with IEPs are receiving educational services in a variety of ways. During non-traditional instruction, no schools in Kentucky are completely closed, yet none are completely open. In some schools, teachers are developing home packets. Some are using continuous learning opportunities where the teacher is checking in with the student and the parents through phone, email, or Facebook. And other schools have e-learning with instruction provided interactively through an online platform. Teachers should continue to protect student confidentiality during online instruction. If you have questions or concerns, you may refer to the Council for Exceptional Children's mini webinar on student privacy that can be accessed through the link on the bottom left of this slide. Keep in mind, the non-traditional instruction delivery methods can change frequently depending on the individual needs of each student, the supports that can be provided in the home, and the availability of internet services. Throughout today's discussion, we will provide multiple examples of how SDI can look based on non-technology and e-learning delivery methods. Given the varied needs of our students, many teachers are struggling with how we can effectively provide specially designed instruction in these non-traditional formats. Services may not look the same, but we can still provide supports through other means and continue to individualize instruction based on the unique needs of the student. Keep in mind, many parents of students with significant cognitive disabilities may need additional support in order to assist their child to engage in learning activities at home. This can be a great opportunity to build the relationships among team members through increased communication, the sharing of resources, and problem solving. In the classroom, specially designed instruction is often provided to our students using strategies such as modeling, scaffolding, and explicit instruction. During non-traditional instruction, the same SDI can be delivered in a variety of ways. For students with no internet access, teachers could use a combination of phone calls, text messaging, and home packets that include lessons as well as the picture directions, task analyses, schedules, and any needed manipulatives. For families who have sufficient internet access, support may be provided through Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, or any other online platform. There are several educational software and textbook companies offering free access to online materials during this time. Links to those free trials and materials can be found in our SDI for MSD supplemental resource, on the Kentucky Department of Ed's webpage, and on the Kentucky Dose Support website. Remember, it is the special education teacher's responsibility to adapt the content, methodology, or delivery to address the unique needs of the student and to ensure access to the general curriculum. As we plan for specially designed instruction, we should consider, are we mirroring typical SDI as much as possible given these circumstances? Whatever we are doing during non-traditional instruction, we need to be sure to document. This includes documentation of the IEP services that we have provided and those that we've attempted to provide. If the teacher is having difficulty gaining contact with the family or student, document this information and continue to check back in on a regular basis to see if the needs or if circumstances have changed that allow for an increase in participation and instruction. You see here on the slide one example of a way to document your instruction during non-traditional instruction. Notice the column that allows a description of the specially designed instruction that you've provided. Keep in mind, your district may require that you use a specific form, so please follow your district's protocol for documentation. The key here is to document. Schools will need this information to make instructional decisions for students with an IEP upon return to typical instructional practices.
Most students with moderate to severe disabilities require support with functional communication. This can be overwhelming during this time of non-traditional instruction and often adds stress to students, families, and teachers. Key considerations for communication would be to know the mode of communication, the level of prompting needed for the student to communicate, and to plan for communication opportunities across a variety of settings. It is important to ensure that students have access to their mode of communication, or AAC, during this time of NTI. Teachers and speech and language pathologists can work together to instruct parents in the use of the communication system. A best practice would be to provide parents with an informational or problem-solving checklist for maintaining the device, basic troubleshooting, and programming, including how to add vocabulary to the device. Special consideration should focus on modeling for families exactly how to use the student's mode of communication. Most students will need some form of prompting for communication. Parents or family members will need to be instructed on when and how to prompt communication. Possible options for parent training may include providing video models, written instructions, and/or verbal explanations. It's important to look for and plan communication opportunities throughout the day. Teachers and speech and language pathologists can assist families in identifying times when communication naturally occurs and plan for how the student will communicate during those activities. Communication plans should include opportunities or modeling for requesting, commenting, questioning, and providing information along with the vocabulary needed to communicate. Teachers should ensure that families are aware of the student's current level of expressive language skills. In some instances, modeling and providing opportunities for communication is more instructionally appropriate for the student than expecting independent expressive responses. Families could share photos, short video clips, or brief written descriptions of activities for progress monitoring. In the YouTube videos on the right, by Mrs. Campbell, you can see a great example of how teachers can model the use of AACs and picture schedules. These videos can be used to provide direct instruction for students and also as coaching supports for families during NTI.
Hi guys, I'm back. I wanted to join you this evening to take some time to make dinner together. We're going to make pizza. And so I want to start with our schedule. And this is always a great way to get going with anything so you know what the plan is for our activity. First, we're going to cook. Then we're going to have some choice time while the food is in the oven. And then we're going to eat and play outside. First cook, then have some choice time while it cooks. And then we're going to eat and play outside. We're making pizza. So before we do our cooking project, I wanted to get us started with a healthy habit. And this healthy habit is something we should do anytime we cook or anytime we eat. And we should be doing it a lot right now anyway. The thing we're going to do is an action, body. We're going to wash. And then we're going to go to things, body parts. And if you hold down right here on hands, you can make it plural. Wash hands. We're going to wash our hands. Before we do that, I'm going to get this fancy electronics cleaning wipe. And what I want to do is take a quick second and wipe down my AAC device, because you should have your device with you everywhere. And that means that if you're talking a lot and taking your device all over your house, it, just like your cell phone or any other part of you, it can get dirty. So we need to take an opportunity and wipe that down when
there are many SDI that can be used for communication instruction. For today's purposes, we selected 3 of the most prevalently used SDI with the MSD population. Modeling is an SDI that is often used for a variety of communication levels. A popular strategy within modeling is aided language stimulation. There's a short video example and explanation of this strategy in the e-learning column of this table, which is a great tool to share with families as well as staff when they are teaching students how to use the language of their device to communicate. The next priority SDI area is visual supports. Our focus during NTI is assuring students and families have access to vocabulary at the representation level a student needs to be able to communicate not only their wants and needs, but their learning across the NTI work that is being provided. Parents will need to be instructed how they can obtain additional vocabulary at the student's representation level. Teachers can assist parents in identifying household objects to represent needed vocabulary. If at the picture level, parents and families can cut visual representations from product packaging or print from Google Images or similar sites as a non-technology option. Core and fringe communication boards that the student has been using at school is also a wonderful non-tech option for instruction. The Saltillo site has a variety of core communication flipbook options that teachers can access and provide to parents. In this example, the student was using a dynamic device with Saltillo Word Power, but the parents opted not to have the device go home with the student, so the SLP printed out paper copies of the core and fringe vocabulary that matched what the student was currently using. It's important to remember that the paper version of a communication system would match what the student has been using in daily instruction. If a student's device cannot be taken home, access can be provided by the teacher simply taking screenshots of each page, printing them, and sending them home. Finally, during NTI, it will be crucial for teachers and SLPs to support families in providing the right level of prompting to support optimal independence for the student. Most importantly, provisions need to be made to provide parent training and support on how to prompt the use of that system during non-traditional instruction. For your convenience, we've included a parent-friendly explanation for prompting communication in the e-learning column at the bottom.
Kyle, did it go away?
If you need additional examples for how to incorporate core language into home activities, go to YouTube and search Lotta Compton's, which is referenced in the e-learning examples. At this site, you will find fun, motivating ways to work on core vocabulary instruction.
Okay,
These examples can also be shared with families if e-learning is an option. Obviously, if parents have been trained in the use of the student's communication system, that training and support would need to be provided along with the academic instruction and could be presented through written step-by-step directions, shared videos, or direct face-to-face online modeling. Many students require specialized instruction related to behavior. In the classroom, teachers utilize various instructional techniques, including antecedent-based interventions, priming, prompting, and reinforcement strategies, and even more. Many students require the use of visual schedules of activities to promote independence and task completion. Providing behavior supports during NTI can look very similar. Teachers utilizing non-technology instruction may choose to send printed copies of visual schedules, behavior cue cards, first then schedules, and token reinforcement systems home along with their work packets. Visual supports can be made very easily with materials already in the home, such as Post-it notes, dry erase boards, scraps of paper, and even food wrappers. Teachers may need to provide instruction to families on how to utilize visual supports throughout the non-traditional instruction. Again, video modeling, written and/or verbal instruction may be considered as well. For teachers who are conducting e-learning activities, you may incorporate a visual schedule in PowerPoint and utilize a timer on your smartphone to support task completion and successful transition between activities. YouTube has a ton of calming and relaxation videos that teachers can facilitate during an online lesson, such as this quick lesson on slow breathing.
Hello, welcome to Mind Yeti. Today you will practice a special kind of breathing. We call it slow breathing. because you breathe in slowly through your nose and out through your mouth. Slow breathing can help you settle the hubbub and find a peaceful place.
During reading activities, students with moderate and severe disabilities need a multisensory approach that may involve listening, movement, speaking, and touching. In the classroom, we provide a wide range of activities that allow this to take place. We use items such as sand trays, modeling and objects, tracing on sandpaper, or creating letters or words with Play-Doh. These activities can continue at home when students are listening to a story. Parents can provide items for students to touch that support vocabulary and meaning and increase engagement. If non-technology is chosen as your mode of instruction, teachers may choose to send home other multisensory items, including adapted graphic organizers, audio recordings, or other materials such as gel bags, sandpaper, pieces of rough cloth, manipulatives, or other objects like dolls or stuffed animals to represent characters in a story. Parents may also have things that they could use at home, such as the child's favorite blanket, Ziploc bags with gel in them, or other preferred items. Remember to remind parents to use multisensory options during the instruction to increase engagement, access, and motivation. Teachers may also encourage families to act out scenes in a story. For example, if we read, "John jumped in the puddle," the student can stand up and jump to provide kinesthetic input. If e-learning is available, instruction can be modeled and delivered easily during Zoom or Google meetings with parents or siblings supporting instruction. For your convenience, we have provided several online resources that can be accessed by teachers or parents. For writing, many activities can be customized at home using commonly available household items. Instead of paper pencil task, salt, sugar, sand, shaving cream, or chalk can be used to write letters, words, and/or sentences. You can also easily make a dry erase board by slipping a sheet of paper into a page protector, then using a dry erase marker for writing at the student's level. These dry erase boards tend to be a student favorite because they can be used over and over again. Also, graphic organizers with letter blocks, such as the one shown in the SAM example, can be used to accelerate student growth and understanding. Teachers may also consider providing copies of stories or other templates or graphic organizers, such as beginning, middle, or end graphic organizers or foldables, as non-technology options. There are many e-learning resources for writing included in the following column. One we would like to highlight today is Tar Heel Reader, which is an easily accessible resource that students, teachers, or parents can use to create their own digital book. In this example, this is one example of a set of stories that can be found on Tar Heel Reader. This resource can be utilized for writing as well as reading instruction. When teaching mathematics, we want to follow the CSA model for instruction, which means we present instruction in a concrete way with manipulatives first, then move to semi-concrete and finally abstract instruction. It's important to recognize that not all students are ready for the semi-concrete and especially the abstract format, so parents will need to understand which level they need to target for instruction. For students in the concrete stage, we want to provide manipulatives. Manipulatives provide opportunities to engage in the multisensory approach, which helps with understanding and retention. At home, these manipulatives can be beans, beads, blocks, cars, or Legos, or any other item families may have available. Students who need counting experience can make movements such as tapping out numbers with a finger or dropping items into a cup or bowl. Students can move a car along the number line, ruler, or tape measure. This is also a great way for number recognition, counting up, adding, or subtraction to be taught. If a student is working on multiplication or division, a tape measure with clothespins attached to numbers for skip counting could also be used. This shows the additive property in a concrete format. Students who are performing at the semi-concrete stage could use homemade dry erase boards to draw the models by marking a number or representing the problem using marks or circles. Students can do all three stages of the CSA process. if they are comfortable with writing the symbol, but demonstrating an understanding through manipulatives and drawings is just as important. We've included several free virtual manipulative resources in the e-learning examples. Remember that parents can incorporate many math strategies, such as measurement, fractions, counting, and shape, into cooking and other daily activities. So please encourage students and parents to use naturally occurring fun activities throughout the day to reinforce concepts. As we know, daily living skills are necessary for independent living. In teaching daily living skills, teachers use many direct instruction strategies such as modeling and prompting, as well as systematic instruction in order to generalize learning. In the home setting, parents can incorporate daily living skills into the student's daily routine. A visual schedule provides independence and creates predictability. Providing task analysis and checklists will assist parents in instruction of the skill as well. Visual supports are also a key part of the instruction. Visuals can be made at home with pictures from food items, magazines, or newspapers. For students that have access to the internet and computerized software, many videos are available for the student to watch appropriate presentation of the behavior. There are also many free materials to download and reproduce for use at home. Remember, daily living skills reach across the curriculum and can enhance application of other focused skills in reading, math, or writing. Again, it is vitally important that teachers communicate to parents what skills the students need to work on and provide task analyses and other materials as appropriate. ABC Teach Daily Living Skills Activities link located in the non-technology column is a great resource for teachers and parents. ABC Teach has a variety of engaging daily living skills printable activities that can be used for home instruction, so be sure to check out this resource.
For students who use assistive technology in the classroom, they may not have access to that technology at home. This slide depicts how parents might work with the teacher to allow the student to continue to make progress on their goals. In the low-tech example, the student's SDI included instruction and use on single switch to answer content-related questions. In the classroom, the teacher would have identified an access point for the student, such as a hand, head, or foot, and then work with the student on activating the switch by praising their efforts. In the home, an NTI example might include collaboration with the parents via phone call or texting, or an online platform such as Google Meet. The parent and teacher could work together to identify an alternative means to access answering the content-related questions if the student does not have a switch at home. The alternative means might include working with the parents and student to identify a movement to indicate an answer to the content-related question. Once the movement has been identified, the parent and teacher work together to praise the student for the movement. A high-tech example would be for a student who requires a little less support than this first example. In this example, a student is provided SDI and how to request a reader for passages they need read to them. This type of instruction is typical in an MSD classroom and may be supported using visuals and a reinforcement schedule. Consider how a teacher might work with the parent to continue this instruction in the home setting. Using an online platform such as Google Meet or Zoom, the teacher may show the parent and the student how to access on-screen readers built into Google Chrome as well as other online platforms.
Just occurred to me I had myself muted for YouTube. Sorry, guys. Said Krista and Beth, great job. Thank you guys for staying on top of the chat and offering to get that presentation out to everybody watching. And thank you for being with us. That was great info, and we appreciate that. Next up, we've got Brittany Adkins for co-teaching in the NTI environment. Hey, Brittany, how are you this afternoon?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. Well, if you're ready, I'll turn it over to you and let you rock. We're right on schedule.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. While Brittany's getting that presentation queued up, guys, don't forget to take a look at the hashtag JCPSDigIn over on Twitter. Take a look at that. Lots of great information that way. Also, if you're joining us in the chat just now, please be sure to let us know what school you represent or department, who you are, and please ask any questions that you'd like answered, and we'll do our best to get to them during the presentation. Yes, lots of love in the chat still for the MSD presentation. It was great. Thank you, guys.
Can you see my screen? Is it sharing?
Yes, it sure is. We can see you. Just make sure if you haven't yet that when you go into present mode, you turn on that closed captioning for us, if you would.
Can you see my screen, my PowerPoint though?
Well, I did for a moment. So you were in the right place. If you go back to screen share and then share the whole screen again, and then you can just navigate straight to your presentation, and I'll verify Perfect. I can see that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, looks good.
I see you right now on the Hangout. Did you see an option to share screen?
Yes.
Okay, now I see you sharing. There you go. And if you hop over to the presentation, yep, just go ahead and click. That's it. Now I see. And then when you go into present mode, in the top right or however you get there, yep. And then down there in the bottom, you should see the closed caption options. You can hit that hide on that white bar there for us as well.
Shoot.
There you go.
Okay.
And I think that's going to have it there.
All right. Are we good to go?
Click that closed caption button one time. Just click it. The actual CC button. Okay, now it's on. There you go.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good afternoon, guys. My name is Brittany Adkins. I work in the special education department at JCPS. I'm going to be going over co-teaching in the NTI environment. So as you have questions, if you will just put those in the chat, and then some of my teammates are here. I have Pam and Jacqueline with me. They'll be helping me out. Okay, our learning targets today, we will identify the essential concepts for co-planning for effective virtual co-teaching, and we'll learn the characteristics and the purpose of the 3 virtual co-teaching models. So for our agenda today, we're going to discuss the benefits and barriers of virtual co-teaching, effective co-planning components, roles and responsibility of co-planning, and virtual co-teaching models. Okay, so first of all, what is co-teaching? Co-teaching is the partnering of 2 educators with different expertise. So typically we're going to think of a general education teacher who'd be the content expert, and the special education teacher who would be an expert in differentiated instruction, especially design instruction for students with disabilities. They work together collaboratively to plan, instruct, and assess students with and without disabilities to provide effective instruction in a single space. So typically it is going to occur in a classroom. And then co-teaching is a service delivery model for students with disabilities. So that's what it is in a nutshell, in case you did not know. Teaching is you have 2 different content experts, the differentiation expert or special education, and our content expert or general education. So when we put those together, we're going to obviously provide more effective instruction for our students and be able to meet the need of all of our students. So that is why co-teaching is so important. And it's important for us to continue to do so, even though it's virtual. So it's just going to look a little different, but we still are able to do so. Okay, if you guys will please share some benefits or barriers that you have encountered with co-teaching in person, and then also during NTI, our virtual learning in the spring. If you can kind of just let me know some some issues that you've had or some benefits that you've seen. And Pam and Jacqueline, if you can just let me know what's going on in the chat so we can answer some of those questions together. Or guys, you can speak up. Unmute yourself, anything. No. Okay. Okay, I'll go on then. If anyone wants to add to, just feel free just to hop in, ask questions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it definitely depends on your relationship, I would say. If you feel like an assistant or an equal, that's good. Communication's definitely another barrier. Okay, anything else before we go on? Okay, thanks. So these are some benefits that I've seen and heard from people, is that we were able to meet the needs of all the students, because we have people in there, like I said, that are specialized in content and differentiated instruction and working with students with and without disabilities. Another benefit is you're able to share that accountability and responsibility. It's a big responsibility to educate all of these students and meet all the learning needs. And so two heads are better than one for sure. And you don't feel like you have to, have a burden of all of the work on yourself. You can kind of share that. And, it also, research also says co-teaching, helps improve the burnout rate when you're really feeling down and out. Hopefully that other person can lift you up and get you back in good spirits. And then you can problem solve collaboratively, which that is, key in virtual learning, and increase the use of instructional strategies. And as someone had just mentioned earlier, making sure that we are equals and we feel equally respected professionally. And then professional learning, you're going to learn from one another as well. And barriers that we've noticed is time to get together to plan, time to make sure we're on the same page. A lot of times we might not have common planning. Even virtually, that's something that you're going to have to work on, is making sure that you have a consistent time to meet and navigating virtual learning. That's a barrier. We're all figuring out how to use the different platforms, what's the best way to communicate with students and parents and provide engaging education to the students. And then we encountered technical difficulties. So speaking of that, my internet has been going in and out today. If I pop off for a minute, that's where I am. I'll be right back. Okay, any comments so far? Okay, good. Okay, so these are the 4 C's of co-teaching: co-plan, co-instruct, co-assess, and co-manage. So co-plan is that piece we're going to do prior to the lessons. When we're developing our lessons, we're working on our assessments, we're looking at the standards, different curriculum, the needs of the students. Instructing, that's when we're both in the general education classroom instructing students. Assess, we're going to assess different how we're going to assess the students, and manage also how we're managing those behaviors and motivating the students to engage in learning while we're in the classroom. For the purposes of this presentation, and also too, what is I think essential in virtual learning is the co-plan. It's all about the being prepared prior. That is what is, has you guys, I'm sure, that have been involved in virtual learning, know that the planning piece is huge in the on how you're going to do it and how you're going to communicate and provide instruction to the kids. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So the main thing for co-planning that you need to know during NTI, that schools I know that have been successful, they have a regular common planning time. So at least once a week, you guys should probably be meeting and planning ahead for the following week. I think it's a good idea to have the same time, agreed upon time, and the same time each week. So if we do 10 o'clock every Thursday, and then off text them, talk to them almost every day, just checking in. But that is key, that regular common planning time. And when we are also back in school, for the teachers that you work with the most, the team you work with the most, or the department, it's also important to making sure that you are regularly attending the PLCs and involved in the planning too. So that another thing too is so that you are aware of the content you're teaching, and you can provide, a special education teacher can provide that differentiated instruction lens. One thing too that's always important in any meeting, but especially co-planning, because it does require more time to plan virtually than it does when we are in the school building. So in order to efficiently use our time, we want to make sure you have an agenda, or you can have like a lesson plan template for a co-teaching lesson plan template. And that's going to help you stay focused and avoid off-topic conversations. Um, if you feel like that you need to have 5 minutes at the beginning to just talk about your day and events, schedule that 5 minutes, set a timer, and then move on. But we really want to maximize that time. Also, you want to establish your regular roles and so Jessica would love to hear tips and maybe even script points for being cooperative. Yeah, so Jessica, what I can do after this, I have some lesson plan templates that I have come across, and also GLEC, who they provide a lot of training for special education that they've had, and I think that would be a good starting point. They're kind of like graphic organizers, and they talk about the different roles and responsibilities. One thing I have taught general education elementary, and I've taught special education elementary too, so both. But one thing I did to help get my foot in the door with co-teaching a lot is I would go in during the workshop model time during math or um, literacy workshop, and then I would run a small group. And what I would do is obviously provide my specially designed instruction to the students with disabilities that I serviced. And I would also take like students into my group as well. And I taught reading groups. So I was, for teaching, I was planning my own lessons for those small groups, and they were aligned with what the general education teacher was doing. And that way I was I was helping those kids that weren't special ed because they needed reading instruction. And then I also was helping that teacher out too. So I have found that sometimes that's one way to get in the door. You're kind of doing them a favor. And then that way you can lead on to where you can try different co-teaching models where maybe you're helping teach in a larger classroom. Another way too is to make sure your administration, when you guys are planning with a different grade, when you guys are planning, making sure that you build your schedule around the team you work with the most. And then I know as a resource teacher, it is difficult to plan with all the grade levels. One thing that you can do right now, or even when we are in brick and mortar, is make sure that they are sharing. Almost every school now has a PLC, and they have a PLC folder where they have to download their information. So make sure that you have access to, their Google Drive or whatever, so you can at least read the notes and know what content they're covering and know what instructional strategies they're doing, and then follow up with them. I mean, I know that's a little extra work on your part, but when I was I guess I had like second through fifth grade, and I was trying to navigate all those different grade level standards. That was what I kind of would do too. Or you could choose to meet with different groups before or after. I mean, that would be your own choice because you probably wouldn't get paid for that, or just kind of have like one of your other ECE teachers, if they attended the grade level team on your behalf and shared the information. So hopefully those are some suggestions you guys can try in school. A big push though, if your administration is supportive and on board, and they let the general education teachers know that it's their responsibility to make sure you guys are collaborating together. That's always been helpful as well. Okay, so those are definitely some things you can try. And like I said, if you want to reach out to me, I have my email on the last slide, and I can send some templates. And just some, I mean, I thought they were really interesting when I've been, as I've learned more and more about co-teaching and different methods, maybe that will be a creative way to help get you out of the box and make some progress in that area. And then like we're just kind of talking about is you want to make sure that you have like your standard method of communication. If nothing else, whether we're in brick or mortar or virtual, you should be just, checking in with those teachers that you work with on a regular basis. And you all should decide phone, Google Meet, Zoom, however you're going to do, and at least have like a weekly check-in if nothing else. So this is something I've noticed that I've came across is some of the special education teachers that we support are having trouble getting into the Google Classroom. So that's something that within the next few days before the kids come back, that we want to make sure that we have equal access to all the virtual platforms, documents, Google Classrooms. So contact whichever teachers those are, and maybe your implementation coach at your school can help assist with that as well, and make sure that you are able to see everything so you can support the kids and support in their learning too. Because if you have access to that content, you're able to do some extra, preloading or reteaching of skills within the resource classroom too. So that's another thing. You can see what they're working with. And you should have a part of it. You're working with that team. So that's something, if you have not done yet, go ahead and make sure that you have access to, all of the documents and classrooms with who you support. So this is roles and responsibilities prior to co-planning. So since we did discuss that it does take longer to plan virtually, you want to come prepared to the meeting. So if I'm a gen ed teacher and I'm coming to work with my special ed teacher and we're going to plan our lessons for the following week, it's my job to know what's essential standards we're going to do. I might already have my learning targets mapped out, and they should have done backwards planning. They should have had their assessment, already planned out on Friday, and then develop their learning targets and have like kind of a draft of some lesson activities before they even come meet with you. They should have it kind of drafted out of what the lessons are going to look like, what we're working on. So then when you would meet, but your responsibility is, as a special education teacher, you need to have all of the students on your caseload. You need to know their specially designed instruction, we say SDI, and supplemental aids and services so that you are able to contribute to that conversation. So when you go in there, you'll know the student's needs. You can talk at that point, talk about what differentiation strategies should we try with these kids and make sure that you guys are adapting the curriculum appropriately. Because the whole goal of special education is to use specially designed instruction so that kids with disabilities have access to general education curriculum. So co-teaching is like the perfect marriage of those two if it's done correctly. So really you need to come and know what works with those students and what the needs of those students are, because that's your area of expertise. And what strategies can you use with those students in the classroom? These are 3 guiding questions. So I know we've said a lot, but if nothing else, think about these. Like, what are you guys going to teach? How are you going to teach it? And who needs additional considerations for the lesson? So those are just guiding questions you guys should have when you are working together and planning. And also to think about the structure of the lesson, because you might be doing different parts of the lesson depending on which co-teaching model you use. So we know in the beginning of the lesson, we address the warm-up, the mini lesson. Here's what we're learning today. We have guided practice learning activity, then possible independent practice, assessment, or closing activity. And that's something that you could be in charge of one of those. And that you'd be the teacher that would be providing that instruction. So think of it in those terms too when you guys are planning. So during the actual co-planning, what both teachers need to do, the gen ed teacher and the special ed teacher, you're going to think about what content are we doing, which instructional methods, what's the best way to deliver this information to the kids, the most effective way, what assessments are we going to do, what is my role. So this part's huge, is your role. You want to talk about, obviously, if we're both in a Google Classroom, and you guys have been in Zooms and Googles where it's kind of hard because people talk over one another, and then you have the kids together because they're all excited to see each other and chat too. But you all want to know, like, okay, I'm Brittany, I'm going to do the warm up and mini lesson. And then Pam is going to do the guided practice, so that you know exactly what you're responsible for, and you're not talking over each other and looking unorganized, like you don't know what's going on and getting frustrated from the kids. So that's key, to make sure you know exactly what you're responsible for during the instruction. And then you decide which virtual co-teaching model is best. So we're going to look at a few of those in a minute, based on what what you're teaching, what the needs of your students are. You decide, okay, let's try this, or let's try this method. And then you would also assist with what's the best way to group the students depending on what you're working on and the needs of the kids. So I just picked 3 virtual there's several different co-teaching models virtually. So a lot of you guys have probably done this. One teach, one observe as a model, and then one teach, one assist as a model. But I just kind of combine those together for virtual purposes. And a lot of you have done this before, and it can kind of be demeaning professionally if you're a special education teacher and you feel like you are just an assistant and you're not being utilized to your best ability. You're not, with that being said, we're not providing the best education to the kids. So this is not something I recommend. I know a lot of people do this, but this is probably the least effective to improve and to have quality instruction model, but it is necessary at times. So, but I would just this shouldn't be your only model you use. Let me just say that. But if you're going to alternate between roles, this would be okay. So you'll have one teacher, typically the general education teacher, is teaching the whole group instruction and live instruction. And then you can have the special education teacher. So you're either observing or collecting data on students, maybe academic or social data. So virtually, it's always a good idea to have someone monitor the chat and make sure that if there's any questions from the kids or something going on, they can't hear, technical difficulties, that you can address those, and that you're there to respond to questions. And also, when you can assist the kids individually or model or scaffold supports. So while the teacher's doing whole group instruction. And most of you guys, if you've done co-teaching, are familiar with this. So if this is the model you do choose, you should alternate between roles, where the special education teacher is teaching the actual lesson sometimes, and the general education teacher is doing observation, data collection, or helping students individually. So if you do choose that, alternate between roles would make it more equal and, utilize the strengths of both of these educators. Any question on that? I know, like I said, that's probably what you all have seen and are used to.
Just support to your point, where they tried to build relationships as much as possible. They turned to more open doors for collaborations with each of the teachers, and they taught MSD K through 4. So.
Oh, good. Thank you. Parallel teaching. So this is a virtual model you can try. This might be something so that both teacher has equal responsibility and they're planning, lessons, and they feel like they're going to have equal accountability as well. So you can have 2 different separate virtual groups. You can divide the class in half. You can do mixed ability grouping. It's a lower student to teacher ratio. So that would be a plus. If you have a class of 30, it'd be 15-1. But the thing is, if you're going to do this virtually, you'll need to have 2 separate breakout rooms or meet or whatever you choose to do, and 2 separate invitations. So if Pam and I are co-teaching, I'm going to make sure I send the invitation to my half of the students and she'll send it to her half. And so she'll be responsible for communicating that and doing that. Obviously, if we do that, we have planned ahead about which lesson we're going to do. Or you can do it a couple different ways. Like she and I can teach the same content, same lesson. We can do the same content and teach it differently, like, adapt the delivery or instruction, or we can teach different content. Or we could even do where I'm teaching a mini lesson and then she's doing a guided activity to support that mini lesson. So this is just a way to have smaller, to give you some ways to differentiate your instruction and have a smaller ratio. You want to have, you also virtually, you want to have 2 different learning activities or documents, okay? So you make sure that you're not kind of sharing. So that's something to think about. And it's always important if you are going to work with the students separately to make sure you're debriefing after the lesson. You want to analyze student work, talk about how they did, and reflect on the lesson. Like you would do that virtually or in person, but especially right now because you're not even going to be in the same, you'd be in totally different, virtual spaces. And then you have station teaching. So this would be like a workshop model, but virtually. And one person could be doing the mini lesson. You could be doing that live, or it can be one of you could have recorded yourself and show that previously. Or if you're doing a Google Doc with certain kids, one can be doing guided practice or teaching reinforcement skills, and then you can have an independent station. So the thing to think about though, if you're going to do virtual station rotation, is how are you going to do your 3 virtual sessions? Are you going to have 2 live sessions? Are you going to have them like for 15 minutes once a day? Are you going to do, where we're rotating, like where we do all 3 in one day? So you'll need to make sure that you have a really tight plan on how you're going to communicate with the students and their parents. Obviously you could schedule ahead of time on like Google Meets or whatever platform you're using and have those different links for the different days. But also too, once you do those, it's important to kind of come back as a whole group. Maybe if you did like a station per day or a couple each day on Friday perhaps, and just kind of debrief as a whole group with the kids too. So that's really station teaching, I think would be really cool to do virtually. I think it would be a great way to cover, several different skills, so we can kind of work on those refresher skills that we missed last year, and then also the new content we're covering this year. That'd be an excellent idea. But you're going to have to be very strategic and intentional and methodical about how you do that, because you don't want to just say we're going to. That could be a mess if you're not if you're not organized and prepared before. Okay, co-teaching. So these are our last 2 slides, and then feel free to answer questions. So the essential things you need to know is you've got to communicate, and you have to be intentional, because we know virtually everything, it has to be planned ahead. You can't just wing it. When you're intentional, think about what are you going to teach? How are you going to teach it? Who needs additional consideration? So you would use IEP and data to make those decisions. You need to make sure you're prepared and you're doing your part and being professional, and make sure that you're having that constantly. You're going to reflect and debrief after your lessons. You need to problem solve together, and then think through the virtual logistics. So if you do a lesson together and you try and it's a total flop, and then you guys meet, you all can figure out, okay, let's try this next time. Or you can figure out what resources you need to make it better. So these are just all things that you have to do to be successful here. And then last, the benefits, we're going to meet all the needs of the students. We have an effective instruction. And you have a partner to navigate through NTI together with. Like, this is a lot of trial and error. We're learning as we go. And it's always better to have somebody to help you through if you're feeling frustrated or that you can learn from. So that's what I think. If you can, maybe virtual co-teaching is that good time to start building those relationships. So when we get back to brick and mortar, it'll be a natural transition. Okay, so if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. We only have like a few minutes. This is my email. You can definitely email me if you would like some more resources or information about this. That was just a quick little bit about co-planning and virtual co-teaching. Hopefully it was beneficial to you. So that's all I have for now. Any questions, Jacqueline, on the chat? Well, thank you. Well, you guys have a great afternoon, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to present and work with you guys today. Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
I've just been informed by Mr. Stephen Durham. Thank you, Durham, that I was muted. How embarrassing. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to talk to you briefly about the NTI 2.0 teacher portal and also the live virtual training schedule. Yeah, thanks, guys. Sorry about that. All of the presentations are linked here, and if they're not, they will be shortly after the ones that we can get a hold of for you. So we appreciate that. The cool thing about the digital learning channel that you're checking out right now with us is that all of these videos get broken up and placed on this repository here where you have different playlists broken up. So you've got the teacher, the principal, the community and family. There's tons of different playlists and resources available to you here. So please take the time to check that out. If you haven't subscribed to the Digital Learning channel, please do that while you're with us. That will give you updates when we go live or when we update or upload a new video that we've broken up for you. And also, don't forget to join us on Twitter with the JCPS hashtag JCPS dig in, and you'll see you've got Nikki Walker here from Wilt Elementary. They're out there giving their Chromebooks out to kiddos today, and lots of awesome videos and resources our schools are putting together to share out. So we would encourage you to join us there as well. We're going to turn it over here to Jacqueline and her team, and they are going to talk with us a bit about ECE during NTI for administrators. So if you're ready to rock, you can take off there, and I think you had something you were going to screen share with us. Is that correct?
I do, yes. It will be a video first, and we will be adding in a bit.ly in the chat. So if they have questions that they don't want to ask in front of everyone else, they can add those to the bit.ly, or feel free to ask in the chat as well. And then the video will take them through a different avenue that they can also ask questions about afterwards.
And Jackie, you may want to, with that bit.ly, sometimes YouTube will give you fits in the chat section. You may want to break that up, put some spaces maybe between them, and then I can put it back together as the moderator and share it out. Just heads up. So.
Okay, perfect.
All right, well, we're ready when you are. And Jackie, we see you. Okay. And that screen is gone now. Guys, if you're just joining us in the live YouTube chat, be sure to let us know who you are and what building or school you represent, and let us know if you have any questions. Hey there, Michelle and David and Heather and everyone join us out there in YouTube land. Now we cannot hear the audio on our end. Do you have audio playing, Jackie?
I do have audio playing.
We may want.
And on my trial run, this all worked perfectly.
Yeah, technology. That's the way that goes. Do you want to make sure that maybe the volume is up on the computer in the presentation? It looks like it is, but.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's playing everything fine on my end. That's what. Let me stop the screen share.
Sure. Do you have headphones in by chance?
I do not.
Well, let me see if I can cue that up from our discussion earlier. Maybe I can get lucky.
Okay.
Guys, give us just a moment if you would, and we will see if we can get this up and rocking on my screen for us here.
The good thing is that this video is about 23 and a half minutes long, so we won't go over into anyone else's time. We'll still have time for questions at the end.
That is perfect. Let's see here. I feel like I'm getting close. Copy it and it's telling me that I don't have access there, Jackie. So I'll request that. I'm not sure if it'll come through.
We will fix it.
Okay.
You're in your JCPS email, correct?
The JCPS backpack account that we have.
Oh, okay. That might be what it is.
There you go.
And we have Cody Monroe here. Says, when you can't be in school with the kids, we bring a school tour to them. So that's very innovative. They've got their Bitmoji school tour here pulled up from Cochran Elementary. Very neat. Watson Lane Library. Did you know as part of the NTI 2.0 strategy, Read, Write, and Equatio are now available for all educators and students? The answer to how is yes. That's awesome. That's a big release today as well. And I'll keep refreshing this screen. All right. Looks like I've got that up and ready to go now. Jackie, thank you.
My name is Jacqueline Williams, and I'm the high school ECE specialist. I'm fortunate to have the opportunity to share some information and resources as your schools begin NTI 2.0. Our objectives for today are to review special education basics, describe the importance of school leaders for students with disabilities, and review the NTI 2.0 ECE guidance document and resources. Some things have not changed, regardless of education occurring in brick and mortar schools or virtually. One of those things is that all children living in the United States are eligible for free public school education. In fact, students with disabilities are guaranteed by law to receive a free and appropriate public school education under the Individuals with Disability Act. There are 13 disability categories under IDEA, and students have a range of strengths and needs within those categories. However, it's important for school administrators to have some knowledge about the characteristics and needs of students in each of the disability areas, so that when you're having conversations with parents and with teachers, you can help guide that conversation with that knowledge. To be college and career ready, students must meet rigorous academic standards and have technological skills to thrive in today's workforce. However, data shows that students with disabilities are likely to have discouraging post-secondary outcomes compared to non-disabled peers. So IDEA places emphasis on requirements that are the most closely related to improving educational outcomes for students with disabilities. That's why it's so important for ARC decisions to be made based on multiple sources of data and parent input. When creating appropriate IEPs, which is a legal document describing the special education and related services designed for that child with a disability, then it's really important to have all of that data to make informative decisions. It's also essential for IEPs to be fully implemented by all staff, and that includes the daily schedule. As a school leader, it is your responsibility to create an inclusive environment for all students that includes high expectations and equitable educational opportunities. So how do you do that during NTI 2.0? One consideration is to promote collective responsibility for student learning. Creating effective, inclusive schools ideally includes system-level leadership and support in which leaders work together toward a collective vision to meet the educational goals of all students in the system. You're going to facilitate an inclusive culture, provide instructional leadership, support teaching and effectiveness, facilitate collaboration, and involve parents and communities. See, it's not much different in NTI as it is in brick and mortar. Today, we're going to focus on facilitating collaboration. In order to facilitate collaboration during NTI, then you have to have systems in place. And those systems must ensure consistent, ongoing communication between schools and family. Your teachers are going to be looking at that student engagement. Parent participation is encouraged. ARC meetings held when necessary. Families need consistency. They need training, and we need to try to remove any barriers that are in the way for their student to achieve. A structure must be created to increase collaboration between teachers, service providers, and specialists. You can still hold your staff meetings, set as time for the mental health and well-being of your teachers. Create those small group virtual learning situations. Have content area PLCs, which include the ECE teachers. And offer even more support in NTI. The district is prepared with ECE to provide that support as necessary for your teachers in your school. Meeting the challenges of online learning is more manageable when we work together. And working closely with specialists and service providers will ensure that what is planned for instruction is based on the student's needs. If you divide work among the team, then students aren't at risk of doing the same lessons over and over, and it makes the workload much more manageable for everyone. Collaboration during NTI 2.0 will be essential. You must also, as a school leader, ensure systems are in place between teachers and ECE implementation coaches. There has to be a communication of student progress, of participation during NTI. We will say over and over again that documentation is the key evidence that supports a good faith effort in providing services during NTI 2.0. If a student is not making progress, if there's a lack of participation, then an ARC meeting must convene. So your implementation coach has to know when those situations are arising. There has to be a system for collecting this information, gathering this documentation, and reviewing the information during ARC meetings. The Office of Special Education and Rehabilitation Services, or OSEP, it's part of the federal government, supervises and administers the Individuals with Disability Education Act, which authorizes the IDEA funding to states. For JCPS, that is approximately $22 million as long as compliance is attained. To assist schools in compliance during NTI 2.0 related to students with disabilities, the ECE department has created various resources. The easiest way to find that is from the principal priority page. And if you go to the principal priority page, the information will be linked on the teacher backpack. This is the same location that teachers were able to access information in the spring. So we're hoping that the consistency of location will assist the usability of our resources. On the teacher backpack page at the top, there is a location for ECE NTI resources. And once that's clicked, you'll find 2 different links to different types of resources. So let's look at the instructional resources first. One way to get to the instructional resources, is through this method. There are other ways to find the instructional resources. But when you go to the instructional resource materials, this has all been updated for NTI 2.0. If we go to the ECE section, you'll find different categories related to students with disabilities. You'll find reading resources, visual impairment resources, even things for our related services or for occupational therapy, physical therapy. There are things for counseling included in this information as well. Some of the most questions that I receive as a specialist relate to our students with moderate to severe disabilities. We know that it is a challenge to provide instruction for students with moderate to severe disabilities during NTI. And so providing resources for our teachers is one way that we can help remove that barrier for finding instructional resources for those students. So here you will find links to different resources, curriculum sources. These are free. There's cooking recipes for kids, and there's descriptions of the resources that can be found here. This is set up so that teachers can easily find what they need during NTI. If we go back to the ECE NTI 2.0 resources, you'll also see a link for the compliance guidance document. This document is updated regularly. In fact, when you're in here, a lot of times you may see us typing as you were reviewing the information. So it's really important that when you enter this document, you refresh your browser to make sure that you have the newest version of this document. you'll see that it's updated for the 2021 school year. And so anything that comes from the state or federal government related to virtual learning, we will put it on this slideshow. On the second slide, you'll find a link to who do I contact for support. If you review the document, you still have questions, reach out to your zone specialist. We are here to help our schools, and we are here to answer any questions you may have. And so you'll find your zone specialist here, and the email address is linked for your convenience. If you have questions about this presentation afterwards, feel free to email me. My email address is linked here as well. And within the guidance document, you're going to find topics such as ARC meetings. What do my instructional assistants do during NTI 2.0? How does instruction, how do IEPs look during NTI 2.0? And then there's an area for questions and answers and accountability within this document as well. Let's look at how the slide is set up. So if we go to ARC meetings, you'll find that this is the first slide related to ARC meetings. Since this is a new concept for this school year, you'll find that it's highlighted in yellow. This tells the implementation coach that we are no longer making copies of ARC documents to send to the records room for the 2021 school year. So those original documents are now stored in the brown folder or in the blue folder if you have not quite made that school transition yet. You'll find the NTI ARC meeting guidance is included here. ARC meetings are going to carry on just like they did during the brick and mortar schools. We still match our timelines. There is, again, no relief for any of those timelines or IEP administration from the federal government. So it's really important that we continue to work towards meeting compliance for our students. There are various topics related to the ARC meetings, even how to send encrypted emails if parents want the documentation through email. You'll find that we've linked or we have added the regulation that relates to the different information that's included in this. There's information related to special needs transportation, compensatory education. What we found for compensatory education is that the KDE guidance is that the ARC will convene to address any compensatory education necessary as a result of NTI after traditional instruction begins. So more guidance will be coming out when we start to return to the buildings. You'll find links to how to request sign language interpreters during this time. We still want those services available for our students. It's really important that we try to implement the IEP as best as possible during NTI, even though it may look a little different. We talk about special education minutes, how to upload graphs, evaluations and reevaluations. You will find links at the bottom discussing timelines. There will be more guidance related to evaluations and assessments that your implementation coach can review on this as well. That's been another big question item related to NTI. But we know that the federal guidance is that, and the state guidance is that evaluations and timelines should not be missed just because we're not in school. So we have to try to do anything that we can to ensure students are receiving what they need during this time as well. So we went to the instruction page. And on instruction, you'll find different conversations that have occurred throughout the district, and we've added that information here. So what do you do if a student doesn't log on or refuses to participate? And you'll find that, once again, here it says, call an ART meeting immediately. Contact your zone specialist for assistance. There's an attendance playbook related to COVID-19 that the state put out that you can find linked here as well. So there's lots of valuable information on this guidance document. On this page, you'll find that there are examples of forms that could be used to document specially designed instruction. Teachers can use these forms. You may, at your school, create your own form. As long as that documentation is occurring, the forms for specially designed instruction documentation can be made in the format that best fits your school. You'll find information about types of Google Classrooms, information related to confidentiality. And this information should mirror the district guidance related for all students and include information related to ECE students. There's the link to Meaningful Progress Monitoring for a webcast that was presented by our special education cooperatives for the state. You'll find information for related services on here. There's also additional information if you click on the links at the bottom of the page. There's information related to ILPs and transition. The site is actually linked here, so you can have additional information regarding the different transition assessments and information for that. There's KDE work-based learning guidance. The alternate assessment information has also been a question that has come up quite a bit. We are still waiting for the Kentucky Department of Education guidance related to whether or not testing is going to be waived at this time. We know that the only waivers occurred in the spring. And so, your alternate assessment standards still must be taught. And so best practice would be to still continue to do everything just like the assessment will be occurring. There is a blurb related to community-based instruction that the Kentucky Department of Education talks about how to do that virtually. And then there are links to the safety, expectation, and best practices for Kentucky schools from KDE. You'll find information related to technology. Again, we're continuing to update these things. So you will see that one slide may not have information one day and the next day it's full. So again, refresh your browser every time you go into this document. We do refer instructional assistants back to your school plan for NTI. At the school level, you know best what is necessary for your instructional assistants to provide that support for your students. And so while we give some examples of things that instructional assistants can do during NTI 2.0, we really leave that up to the school and encourage the schools to add that into their school plan. The same for your early childhood instructional assistants. We've included some information related to 504 accommodations, 504 meetings, and how to distribute 504 plans. So all of that is linked into this document. There's another question and answer situation set up of where these questions may not fit in particular categories, but they're still important for the entire district to review. And so that information is there. If you ask a question and it doesn't fit in any of the categories, but we know other administrators need that information, we will include it here as well. And then we've included state and federal guidance documents. One of the important things that I would like to point out are one of the things I mentioned a little while ago about the special education cooperative webcast series. There's more than just the progress monitoring there. You can find information about specially designed instruction during NTI, specially designed instruction for MSD teachers to review, how to support behavior during NTI. All of these are recorded webinars. Most of them are about 30 minutes long, and it provides resources for your teachers. So if you have any teachers asking how to provide that instruction during NTI for our students with disabilities, this is a great resource for them to review.
Alrighty. Well, we're gonna, for time's sake, press on here. And Jackie was gracious enough to provide us with a bit.ly for additional questions from admin, and then her presentation was also linked in today's schedule, which I've posted in the chat. I want to thank her and her team for keeping me straight on the back end here, making sure I've got what I need to post out, and their patience with all the tech issues I was having early on. So thank you guys for hanging with us. Jackie, thank you for being with us, and thank you for watching so closely with the chat, you and David. And it looks like coming up next, we've got Crystal. Crystal, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Hey, Crystal, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. And I see we've got Becky in here with us as well. Well, Crystal, if you're ready, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you rock.
Okay. And then, so Becky's going to be sharing her screen.
Great.
I'm trying to share my screen.
Technology. Okay. I love it.
I'm not sure I know how to share my screen.
So on this interface, I know it looks a little different. In the top right-hand corner, that little snowman there, if you click that, there should be an option that says share screen.
Yep.
All right. And then you just tell it which window you want us to see. And then from there, you should be able to do present. And as soon as you do that, you can click back over into the slide presentation and turn on closed captioning, and we'll be ready to go. I see your slideshow. That's good. And you have to go into present mode.
Right.
Perfect.
There it is.
And then when you do that, down there at the bottom, see where it's, there you go. You got this.
Captions.
Yep, if you'll do, if you'll hover over that one more time to the arrow pointing down and choose text size large. Perfect. All right, Becky, Crystal, I'll leave it to you guys. You look and sound great. Thank you.
All right. All right. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for joining in today. So I'm hoping that everyone can see our presentation in front of you, and you can hear us well, and you are having a wonderful afternoon. So really what we're talking about today is just, first of all, recognizing that teachers, school administrators, schools, we can't do this alone. We have to engage our families in NTI. And not only do we need to engage our families in NTI, we need to make sure that we have a system. So today I'm really excited to have Becky Getzinger with me today with NCFL. And NCFL, National Center for Learning, Center for Families Learning, is the partner that we work with to engage families across our district. So basically, when we start off, when we start talking about, we're gonna go back there. All right. So when we start talking, like, we always have to level set and talk about, like, what is family engagement, right? So sometimes people think of family engagement as like the last thing you think of. Like, so as a teacher, you think like, okay, got everything together. Now, what am I gonna do with my families again? But we're really trying to change that. So when you think of family engagement, you may have heard of parent involvement. And that's more so, you know, just kind of the getting parents involved at the surface and, you know, sending information out, kind of having social media posts. But what we're really trying to move towards is family engagement, where there are more partnerships, there's more goal setting, it's linked to learning. So what you've probably seen at this point is you've looked at how are we going to communicate with our families, right? That's like the first step. We have to reach out to our families through School Connects, through newsletters. But then now we're looking at how to actually get them involved and then how to partner with our families. So what does that look like in NTI? So in NTI, it's very different, and we have a lot of great resources for you all. But one thing I really want us to think about is this is not just something that's really cute or it should happen. It's something that really increases achievement. And we know that right now, our kids cannot complete NTI without the involvement of families in the community. So we have a lot of things to show why this work is so important. But we know now more than ever that we can't even get NTI finished if we're not involving our families. So what we're going to be talking about today is, what does your system look like? Okay. So how are you going to communicate with your families to where not only you're going to engage in that immediate, reach out, hey, I'm your teacher, this is what we're going to do this year. But then how do you continue to stay engaged? How do you collect feedback from your families? And then how do you make sure that you have a system to really collaborate with other teachers in your building? So we have School Connects on there at 2:30. If you are joining right now, I don't know if it's on the schedule, but at 2:30, we will have a School Connects training. We added it because it was popular demand. We know that people needed to know more about School Connects. So at 2:30, you're going to find out more about that. But just in general, School Connects is an app that all schools can use to have some two-way messaging with your families.
And yes, Crystal, thank you. You're right. Their team is going to be on with us. Thank you.
All right.
One of the things Crystal talked about is getting feedback from families, and we know that that's so important. A lot of times we're doing things and we're not sure if they're working. So taking a minute to ask our families and ask our students, is this working well for you? What's working well? What's not working well? Is there anything that I could do differently? So one of the things we're going to share with you is a resource drive. And in that resource drive, we've created some sample exit slips that can be used with elementary kids. There's a sample exit slip that can be used for older kids. And there are also some surveys that can be used with families because we need to make sure that we're getting feedback when we're not seeing people face to face. Also think about goal setting. A lot of times as teachers, we tend to set academic goals that families don't really understand and can't relate to. So then we don't have a lot of buy-in. So during NTI, it's really important that we work with families to set goals with them. With our middle and high school students, we might set some attendance goals and some participation goals, things that families can really impact. With a kindergartner, we might set a simple goal around letter recognition so that families have something that they're working toward and that we can update them on their child's progress on those specific goals. Another thing I want you to think about is differentiating for families. As educators, we are awesome about differentiating for our students. We really meet kids where they are, and we try and make sure that they have all the things that we need. But then when it comes to family engagement, we often do this one-size-fits-all approach where we send the same newsletter home to every family. We send the same message home for School Connects, and we don't really individualize the way we engage with families. And then when we're surprised when they don't respond back. So really think about, how can you communicate differently? Some families are going to use School Connect, some families aren't. So how can you reach out to those families who aren't? How can you differentiate opportunities? Some kids are going to come to a scheduled office hour time. Some families aren't going to be comfortable with that. Think about scheduling. Lots of kids are going to be able to log in during the day and it's going to work. But if all of your login times are during the day and mom and dad are at work, then there are some families who are never going to get to participate. And think about the resources that you share with families. Some families don't have access to food right now. Some families are really struggling. Some families need community support. So know that when you're sharing resources and you're providing things for families, that you might need to differentiate those. So being really cognizant of meeting not just kids where they are, but meeting families where they are. So one of the things we're asking you to do today is make a plan. Like Crystal said, we can't just hope that it all works out. So really think about family engagement in terms of your entire school year. Think about ongoing communication. How are you going to do that this year? And let parents know in advance. So if you plan to send home School Connects messages every day, and that's your main way of communication, make sure you tell parents that and let them know that up front so that they can sign up for School Connects. One of the other things that's in the resource folder we're sharing today is an entire folder of reproducible one-pagers that can be sent home. They're all PDFs, so you can send them home electronically, but they tell parents how to sign up for School Connects. There's one that tells parents how to send a message with School Connects. And the great thing about a lot of those is a lot of them have already been translated. So when we share that resource folder with you, you want to make sure and capture that so that you can get those resources. If you are going to use social media, make sure that you don't just tell families what to sign up for, but actually show families. One of the things Crystal and I were talking about is that not everybody knows how to use the technology that we're sharing. It's not that they don't want to use it, they truly don't know how. So if you're using something that's different or unusual, walk families through it. You can do a quick video, 2 or 3 minutes, to show people the step-by-step, or even do screenshots and show people step-by-step how to do that. Make sure you have opportunities for two-way communication. It's oftentimes that we send information home to families. We let families know what we're doing. We inform them of their child's progress. We tell them, what we need them to do. But we also need to make sure that we're listening, especially now during COVID. It's really critical that we give families opportunities to share their experiences with us. And that we take action based on what we're hearing. And so make sure that you give families opportunities for two-way communication. I know a lot of you are doing orientation this week, but there's not a lot of opportunity there for parents to ask questions. So can we follow up with phone calls, or can we do some small group things to make sure that we're engaging families in authentic two-way communication? And then another thing about is, how are we engaging families in student learning? Because when we go back to school in person, we don't want that to stop. That is probably one of the most positive things that has come out of this pandemic, is so many families are aware of what their kids are learning, of what school looks like. And we've got to right now do virtual activities to engage families in that, but then also to think, what are our next steps so that when we go back to school in person, can we still do some, video lessons that we can share with the families? Can we still take some pictures of things that are going on in our classroom so that we're engaging families in student learning throughout the year? One of the best ways to do that is to make some commitments. So we're going to ask you to write down your plan. This slideshow is available in that resource drive I mentioned, so you'll have access to these slides. So make a plan. How are you going to communicate? Try not to make it alone. Most of you have PLCs and teams and awesome folks that you work with. See if you can make a plan together. That your team is going to send home a newsletter on Tuesdays. Talk about who's responsible for it and how that's going to look. Also keep logs of your communication. Not only logs of your whole class communication so that you know when you've sent information home, but keep individual logs of student communication. Those individual phone calls are going to be so very important as we start NTI 2.0. Make sure that other people have access to your logs. If your student is working with a special educator or with a speech therapist or the music teacher or whoever, and make sure that everybody else has access to that information as well. We don't want one person to have all the information and other people to be in the dark. So I really encourage you to make a commitment. What's one thing you're going to do during NTI to authentically engage your families? And the example that I gave here is to commit to making 2 positive phone calls or doing 2 virtual meetings each week throughout the school year. So it doesn't just end at when NTI ends and we go back to in-person. It's something that parents can expect. So set those commitments, ask your PLC to take a couple of minutes to talk about those commitments every week so that you have support and connections with other people. We know that's critical to actually taking action. So Crystal's going to tell you a little bit about some of the support opportunities we have that some of your schools are going to be engaged in this year.
Thanks, Becky. So it's really important to know, and also a reminder that we are asking some questions in the chat. So if you want to put questions in the chat while we're here, feel free to do that. But one thing we really want you to remember is that this is not just a one-time deal for us to share information with you. We are going to be supporting schools in like 3 different levels. So teachers, administrators will figure out where your level is. So the first level is really just, all JCPS schools can participate. We'll do some quarterly webinars, general webinars focused on family engagement, share some resources, and we'll also invite family and community leaders to participate in our advisory council. We also welcome all schools to participate on our Facebook page where we answer parent questions. We interact with parents that way. But our level 2, our targeted support, is going to be about 35 to 40 schools, and it's really, more intense. We'll have more teamwork. We'll do a little bit more support based on what the school goals are. And moving to the 3rd level, which is focused on partnerships with the school. So we really have 3 levels because we understand all schools are in different places. You all are going to have different needs. Some schools you're going to feel like we're rocking and we're rolling, we're good. Some schools are going to feel like, you know what, we're in the middle, we could do better. We're, this virtual world is a little different for us. You might be level 2. Level 3, you might say, okay, we are worried about the academic achievement of our kids. We know that we need to partner with our students, with our families and our community, and we need to be intensive about it. We need to be intentional about it. So these are just the 3 different levels that we're putting out. We're going to send messages to administrators and to our family engagement leads from last year to decide what level they should be with all 3 of these. And so if you take your phone, and I just found out too, you can just take a picture right now. So everybody pick up your phone right now. And if you take a picture of your barcode or scan it, you'll actually go to our public resource folder where we are giving you tips on how to make virtual phone calls, how to, when you're writing for families, what are some things to think about, a communication log that you can use, and some feedback forms. But the one thing I can't stress enough is you have to commit to using these resources. We're all excited right now. We're getting engaged. We're getting ready for the school to start. Some of us are nervous. Some of us are confused. And I just want you to think about, if we're confused as educators, can you imagine how confused our families are? So what I suspect is we're going to share information, right? We're going to make, our touch points with our families. And then you're going to start to get questions. And you're going to start to hear stories. And you're going to start to understand there have been things that have happened over the summer with your families that you had no idea about. So you have to plan right now how you're going to prioritize your time to stay involved with your families, to communicate with your families. So we've given you tools to hopefully help you with that. And we're happy to look at other tools that could help you in that process as well. But if you're not planning time to follow up with families and to get feedback from families, if you're not already planning that time out, I really highly recommend planning that out so that this year doesn't get ahead of you.
I'll just add that one of those things in the folder is a checklist called What Do Families Really Want to Know? Crystal and Renee Murphy did a Facebook town hall last week called NTI 2.0, and I monitored the chat during that Facebook session, and we made a document for you of the most frequently asked questions so that you all can make sure to hit some of those points when you're talking with families and when you're sending information home at the start of the school year. So that one's a really valuable resource, and it comes direct from, JCPS families, and it addresses their needs.
All right, so I'm looking in the chat to see if there were additional questions. I'm seeing we have some shout outs from some schools. But wondering, are there any questions? I'm wondering what plans do we have right now to even interact with families? Have we started to have orientations or reach out to families? And if we have time, since we don't have questions, Becky, do you want to pull up some of those resources that we've linked in there? I'm not sure if you can, or if you have them up.
I don't have them up, but if people will give me a second, you can take a dive into my Google Drive with me. I can show you where they are.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are fine on time. And I'll tell you, Crystal, from that question, this is as a parent of a student, I know for sure that I think Medora is going to do a orientation, a virtual orientation, like Monday. So some schools are, and it's great at least as a parent to know that there's still options to kind of see them, even though it's virtually.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here is the resource drive. Like I said, the slides from today, and Crystal and I are doing another session later this afternoon. The slides are already here. Here's the resource I mentioned. What do families really want to know? And it's truly just a checklist of the questions people ask. Like, one of the ones that surprised us is that multiple times people put in the chat during the town hall, is there a dress code during NTI sessions when kids are on the computer? Like, that was a question parents just didn't know. And, we're still sending home school handbooks and that talk about dress codes. And so that was a genuine concern that families had. We heard a lot about school lunch and school breakfast, and I know the district has put out information about that, but it hasn't trickled down to families yet. So teachers, you're always the first point of contact. So you might get questions. So truly, it's just a one-pager to give you some ideas about some things that families were asking when we met with them last week. There's another example here. If you want to do virtual home visits with families, we came up with a list of prompts. They're meant to be for all age and grade levels, both for students and families. So we are sharing that with you as a way of working with your families. Like I mentioned before, we've created some exit slips and some surveys. This is a public drive, so you have editing rights, so you can actually open one of these up, make a copy of it, and move it to your own Google Drive. We set it up that way on purpose because we want to give you these resources so that you're not having to copy them yourself and, recreate from scratch. So this one is just an example of a student exit slip created as a Google form, asking some very basic questions, and also giving kids an opportunity. Is there anything you want to tell me? So if it's something kids don't want to say out loud because they don't want their peers to hear it, it's a chance for them to communicate with you one-on-one. So lots of just different things that we've created since NTI started in the spring that we hope are useful to everyone.
Becky, can you, I think we still have a little bit of time. Can you look at pull up the feedback system or the feedback resources for the teachers to use?
Yep. So there's also a feedback form for families where you ask information about things like the number of devices in the home and do they need support? Do they have access to books? It's really hard for us to give students reading assignments if families don't have access to books at home. So these are just lots of different questions. So there are some here that are designed for families, and there are some here that are designed for the students themselves. And then there's also a way to create a feedback system within your school. It's a way we outlines that, you know, we found in the spring that some families were overwhelmed because they were hearing from 12 different people at the school in 1 week, and they just couldn't keep up with all the communication. It was too much. So creating systems to where you can track who's contacted a family in any 1 week, and that everybody can see it, so that, you know, if the counselor's already contacted the family this week, you know, somebody else doesn't need to reach out. And so thinking about systems that allow you to get feedback from families, but also so that you're not overwhelming families and asking too much, because we know that that can be an issue as well.
Another thing to think about is when you, as a teacher or as an administrator or as, you know, homeschool coordinator, whatever, you're going to be getting information from families. They're going to tell you, you know, we're having a hard time with this, or this, you know, my child is more over the grandparents' house. You're going to get information. And so when we're talking about a system, we're talking about what is your system to communicate that with other people in your building. Do you have a way to share that so that you know, hey, such and such mom is saying that, you know, they're having a hard time with food right now. How are you all communicating that? So I know right now a lot of people are putting it into Infinite Campus, which is great. And so really was thinking intentional about how do you make sure that everyone has access to that? How are you making sure that everyone's sharing that information? So that you feel like that you are not alone in this, because supporting families right now, the need is so great, and it's really important that you are not alone. I love it. So I see that Vanessa shared that Go King, is having their second half of meet and greets tonight. And I was excited to join them a meet and greet too at my son's school at JCPMS, Go JCPMS. And a lot of families still have a lot of questions. Even when you share information and you think that you've laid everything out, there are still questions about everything that we share.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Miracle Middle Schools there, Crystal. I hear you.
Woo woo. Yes.
Well, we certainly appreciate you guys hanging in there with us and giving us a very thorough presentation on how to keep the community and families engaged out there for JCPS, because it is big. There's so much information. So thank you for the emphasis on how to get that out, where to go. And same goes to you, Becky, as well. So we appreciate you guys being with us.
All right, I'm going to hang out a little bit for our next people because it's School Connects. Whoop, whoop.
I know, right? We've got you booked for a little bit here, don't we? That's awesome. Let's see here. Real quick, let me take you guys around, if I may, to the teacher toolkit. And also you've got the family toolkit and the student toolkit, all right here on jcps.me/NTI. So hop on there and check that out. Tons of resources. It's getting updated regularly as well. On the teacher toolkit, you could check out the rest of the schedule, which at this point will be useful to you for links to these presentations that you've seen, and they're being continually updated. So if you don't see the link just yet, stand by, and as we get those, we're feeding them into this sheet. Additionally, don't forget to visit us on Twitter. You can check out the hashtag JCPSDigIn, and of course hashtag WeAreJCPS. Visit the Digital Innovation Twitter page there, and we'd love to shout you out on there and see what's going on in our schools and with our teachers and students. So we've got, for example, a teacher here that's created some pretty engaging digital citizenship lessons, looks like, wanting you to check out. Jack's giving us a quick plug for the Digital Learning Channel, which you're on now, so if you've not subscribed, please do so. I'll take you over that way. What a wonderful segue, Jack. It's like you knew I was going to be talking about you. There's lots of playlists here. You've got the Family and Community playlist that's available. There's 8 videos up there so far. You've got the teacher playlist, AIS support. I mean, tons and tons of different specialized playlists out there for you guys to pour through and check out for information. We cut these up within a day or two of airing them into the 20 or 30 minute sessions so that they're more digestible. So anything you missed today, or if you want to go back and revisit this, you'll have the power of pause once we get it uploaded and ready to go for you. So at this time, I'll hop back over here and check in with, hey, Emily, how are you?
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Wonderful. It is great to see you, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. It is about that special time, so if you want me to turn it over to you, you can take off, and this is School Connect for teachers. And we'll also be monitoring the chat, and we'll answer any questions we can, so thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Additionally, one of my colleagues has a computer nearby. Is there a way for her to get on so that she can answer questions in the chat window? Or
Oh, yeah. So here's how this works. If they'll visit the YouTube channel, the jcps.me/digital learning. If they visit that, they can hop into that chat as themselves, just like any other member. Just have them introduce themselves and let them know they're there for us.
Perfect. Can you just say that website one more time?
Absolutely, yeah. jcps.me/digital learning, all one word.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
And in a pinch, I think if you just get on YouTube and look for JCPS Digital Learning Channel, I think it should pop up for you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We'll head that way.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a super exciting product, so we're anxious to hear more and learn more and get to use this thing.
Great. So so I can go ahead and share my screen?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Are you familiar with this format up there in the top right-hand corner? Those three dots? Okay, got it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emily, and I am part of the School Connects team. I'm just waiting for it to want to share my screen. It doesn't want to do.
Technology.
Sorry, just 1 second.
That's all right. While we're waiting for the screen to share, if you're just joining us on YouTube, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Also in the chat, if you'll let us know what school you represent or department, and any questions you may have for Emily and her team. There you go. I see the School Connects account has joined. You are, in fact, sharing your screen now, Emily, so you can go to your presentation. And then depending on what you're using, if you have closed captioning available, that'd be great. But you're actually just wanting to show us the app looks like, so I'll hush and let you know.
I am, yeah. Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a couple different things. I figured we would get started looking at what School Connects looks like from a parent's perspective so that you can see what that is. And then we'll switch over to the teacher's perspective and I'll show you what you can do with it. So for those of you who are brand new to School Connects, thank you for joining us. We are so excited to be partnering with JCPS. You guys have been phenomenal partners for the past couple weeks. We've worked with a lot of your staff, even some of your families, and everyone is just really enthusiastic and excited to get going. So we're excited to be partnering with you. So School Connects is a two-way engagement platform, and really what our focus is bringing equity to your family engagement. So there's a few different ways that we do that. Essentially, we want to help you overcome the barriers of language, literacy, and access so that you can reach all of your families and share all of this important information that you guys were just talking about in your last session. So like I said, here I'm logged in as a parent, and this parent has her language preference set to Spanish. So when you activate your account, for those of you who haven't yet, the very first thing you'll do is set your language preference. So this parent set her language to Spanish. So when she first logs in, she'll land on her feed. And this is any information that's been posted to any group that she's a part of. So we import information from Infinite Campus on a weekly basis. So we import your school group, your grade level groups, and then any class and section groups in Infinite Campus. You can also create additional groups. But what that does is allows you guys to send out information to, very specific groups of people. And from a parent's perspective, it allows them to get a really curated feed of information. So if this parent has a kindergartner, she's going to receive kindergarten information, but she's not going to get bogged down with second grade information or anything like that. So she can come in here, click on any post. She can translate it. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to make you listen to it, but she can also have it read aloud to her. So again, overcoming those adult literacy challenges. I can go back and put it back into English. I can do it kind of in any direction I'd like. And you'll notice that I can read this post, I can like this post, but there aren't comments or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about what parents will comment on your posts. And then I'm just going to go ahead and change the language back to English so that we can read everything else in here. And I'm just going to kind of go along the menu bar at the bottom so you can see what else she has access to. So when I click on my directory, it's going to show me my child at the top. And again, for you as staff members, it's going to look different. But for a parent, it'll give them their child at the top. If they have multiple children, they'll be able to switch between multiple children. And then we hear from a lot of parents that they really do want to interact with you and they do want to communicate with you, but they might not know your name or how to spell your name. So what they can do is they have all of their child's teachers listed right here. So they can tap the name of the teacher, and then all they have to do is tap message, and it's automatically going to start a message conversation with you. The nice thing about this is you'll see that it looks like texting, but it's not. It's all done in app, so there's absolutely no contact information exchanged. So you can do this on your phone, you can do this on your computer, and again, it's all done in app, no contact information exchanged at all for either you or for the parent. And again, as you can see, it looks just like texting, so they'll be really comfortable and familiar with it. They can translate the messages and have them read aloud. They can also dictate a message. So it's going to open up a lot of opportunity for really direct conversation. You don't have to worry about coordinating times with a parent or times with a parent and an interpreter. Everything is set up and ready to go there for you. And as far as the posts go, because everyone has their own language preference set, all you have to do is send out the information in English, and then each family can translate it into their own language. So if you have one family translate it into Spanish, another family can translate it into Haitian Creole, whatever they need, it's all done for you, and you don't have to worry about any of that. So that is pretty much all that parents are going to be doing, is reading your information and sending messages. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my phone and jump over here to the School Connects web app. So everyone who has a School Connects account can access it from any device. You can log in on your phone, you can log in on a tablet. Either of those would be from the mobile app. If you're going to use a computer, which is what we find most staff are doing, you're going to go to cloud.schoolconnects.com to log in. If you forget that, it's okay. Just go to our website and there's this login button right here. For those of you who don't have an account yet and have never logged in, I'll get to your questions at the end, but don't worry, we're going to get you set up. So once you're logged in, again, you're going to land on your feed. And this is any information that's been posted to a group that you are a part of. So you might get information from your school group or from the district, or any information that you yourself have posted. So here, this teacher has posted math resources, reading resources, virtual learning opportunity resources, a ton of information. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to kind of show you the basic features that you're going to want to make sure you know how to access to get up and running. And that's what we'll do right now. Okay, so you will have this little green plus sign right here. And again, I could do all of this from the mobile app, but we're going to do it from the computer right now. And I have the option to either post news or to post an event. We're going to go ahead and post news. And we are going to say that this is talking about characters. Just post a little resource for how families can support their children reading fiction books at home. Then I have a few optional steps. The first one is to schedule the post. And this is a really great option if you are either working late at night or early in the morning and you don't want parents to get push notifications then. I hope you're not doing that, but I know realistically you are. Or Crystal was talking earlier about making sure that you're scheduling communication and you know you're communicating with your families on a regular basis. This is a great way for you to set something up. You can sit down every Monday morning and set something to go out on Tuesday and Thursday, or you can sit down at the beginning of every month and set something to go out every Monday. However you want to handle it, you can always go back in and edit those posts. You can schedule the exact date and time that a post is published. If I don't check this box, it'll just publish immediately. There's also an expiration date affiliated with every post, and this is to make sure that everything in the parents' feed remains relevant. So if I'm posting now about back to school resources, I might want those to be valid through September. If I'm posting about an assignment that's due next week, I might want this to expire next week. So you can decide exactly when the post is going to be removed from your feed. By default, it's going to be 2 weeks, but you can always change it. There is also going to be an article image affiliated with every post. And this is optional, but we always recommend that you include an image, just because if you think about what kind of grabs your attention, if you're scrolling through social media, it's things with pictures. So this can be an image that you've downloaded. If you're posting from your phone, it can be any picture from your camera roll, but you can add a picture. I can add additional attachments. So this can be PDFs or additional images. I can add up to 5. The only thing I will caution you on with attachments is that we do not have access to the content of your PDF, so we can't translate it. So if you have a PDF you want to share because you already have it or it's in a great format, that's fine. You can attach it, but copy the content and paste it down here in the body of the post so that we can translate the content for you. You can also add an audio recording. This is completely optional. You definitely don't have to. All I will say is that if you do it from your phone, you can go ahead and record the audio from your phone. If you do it from your computer, you can put in any phone number to call to record the audio recording. And then you can either choose to send that audio recording out to everybody. So if you're an administrator and you just want to add an audio recording to make it a little more personal, you can do that. But you can also target specific language groups this way. So if I speak Spanish and I want to record an audio message in Spanish and have it only go out to my Spanish speakers, I can do that as well. So again, completely optional. You don't have to worry about audio recordings, but they are there. And then here's where I'm going to put the body of my post, the actual content. So just for the sake of time, I've copied and pasted this one. You can see I can format the text. It can be as long or as short as you want. There is no limit. The only thing I will say is that because of the translation, especially if you know you have a large population of non-English speakers in your community, just be careful with the language, not to make it too flowery or use too many idioms or anything like that to ensure the accuracy of the translation. Then I'm going to select my recipients, and this is how I can choose exactly who I want to read this post. So again, what is imported automatically from Infinite Campus is your school, your grade level groups, and your class and section groups, but you can add any additional groups you want. So you see that this teacher can post to a reading group that she has created. So there are some additional academic level groups or extracurricular groups. You can create whatever groups you want. If you're an administrator, you're going to have access to every single group in the school, so this might be a little overwhelming. It's okay. There's this search bar at the top, so I can just type in the name of any group that I want to post to and search for it that way. Now you'll notice that because this is a teacher, she is going to require approval to post to the school group. So by default, staff members can post to their own groups. If you want to post to the school, if you're recruiting for an extracurricular activity or anything like that, you can do that. It's just going to go to an administrator first. However, if I wanted to post to my class or a group that I've created, I'm not going to need approval to do that. And if I wanted to select multiple groups, I could select multiple groups. Here at the bottom, I can select what roles this is going to go to. For most of you, you can just leave this as is. You do not need to worry about it. However, if you are an administrator and you want to post to just your staff, I can go ahead and deselect the rest of these roles. Or if you have created a group that has staff and guardians, you can select the roles you want to post to. However, for most of you, most of the time, you can just leave it as is. Then I'm going to have the option to add a reminder. So if this is something about an event or an assignment that's due in a month, I might want a reminder to go out in 3 weeks. And I could create one right here. Again, you don't have to. And then I'm going to preview it. And if it looks good, I'll go ahead and publish it out. And anyone in my class will go ahead and get a push notification. So again, most of those steps are optional. All I have to do is add a title, add content, and add my group recipients and publish it out. Everything else is completely up to you. And so you can post news in a matter of seconds. It can be as long or as short as you want. Now, there's one other thing I can do here in my feed, and that is to post an event. An event is very similar. There are just a couple other things you can do. One is to add a date and time. So pretty self-explanatory. And if you do this, it will automatically link to the parent's Google Calendar or iCal. So a really convenient way for them to be able to track everything. And then there's also a location affiliated with your event. This is going to default to your school's address, but you can change it if it's an in-person event. So if you want to let families know about community resources that are available or anything like that, I can change this to any location and it'll link back to Google Maps. Now, a brand new feature that we just came out with, we're really excited to be able to support you guys with this new feature, is virtual events. So most of your events will probably be virtual. You can click this virtual event checkbox and then put the link right here. So if you have a Zoom platform or whatever else you might be using, you can go ahead and put the link there, and then it'll show up at the top of the event for the parents. So this will be really, really convenient, especially for parents who have multiple children. They will be able to have all of their children's virtual learning opportunities kind of condensed into one place so that they'll be able to track it more easily. The only kind of caveat with this is that this is like I said, a brand new feature. So any parents who haven't updated their mobile apps won't be able to see this. So I would say for a couple of weeks, if you can just put the URL in the body of your event as well, that would be awesome, so that you make sure all of your parents have access to it. The only other thing with events is that it will automatically ask for RSVPs, so you'll be able to track RSVPs, and then you also have the option to track attendance. So if you track attendance, you have a couple different options. We won't go into them today, but you are able to track attendance. You can have follow-up of who attended these events. But other than that, posting an event is exactly like posting news. Okay, I'm gonna come over here to this left-hand navigation bar and just show you a few other places you can go. One is the directory. So we're gonna look at the directory. And at first glance, that's all this is a directory. It is gonna show me everyone in my school community. I will let you know that, again, you as staff members are gonna see things a little bit differently as guardians would. So if you log in, you see a lot of information, don't worry, you can see different things than guardians can. A couple things you can do here, I can filter. So if I wanna look at just my guardians, I can look at guardians. If I wanna look at just students, I can look at just students. And again, this is gonna be the entire school community. If I know the name of someone I want to look for in particular, I can come up here to the search bar at the top and I can search for a specific user. But what I want to show you is if you look here, it's last access column, you'll notice that some people have dates next to their names. Those are the dates they last logged in. So for anyone who has a date next to their name, I'll be able to message them because they have an active account. So all I'm going to do is hover over their name and you'll see this gear icon pops up to the right. I can go ahead and message them right there and it'll open up a message thread. If they do not have a date next to their name, that means they don't have an active account. So I can't message them, but what I can do is I can invite them. So I will be able to come right here and resend email, SMS invitation, and then it'll automatically do that. So Asmahan just got an invitation from me. So that's a great way if you have a conversation with a parent and they mention they haven't activated their School Connects account, I can check and make sure that their contact information is correct. And as long as it is, I can resend their invite. Now, all JCPS families were sent invitations this week. And administrators, you have the ability to re-invite your entire school. I'll show you where you can find kind of step-by-step guides on how to do that. But for staff members, this is how you can invite an individual. You can also message a parent by looking at their student. So if you wanted to message a parent, but you don't remember the parent's name, you just know that you wanted to message that student's guardian, I'm just gonna filter this to students. And if I click this little arrow next to a student's name, her guardians are gonna appear, and I can go ahead and message this guardian right from here. So I would never expect you to know all of the guardians' names of the children that you work with, so you can search by student and then message their parents from there. All of your messages are also stored here in this messages tab. So you can come here to respond to an existing thread or to start a new conversation if you already know the name of the person you want to message. Okay, moving on down, there's this groups tab. And this is where all of your groups are going to be. So these are all of the groups that you are a part of. You'll notice that some of them have a flag icon. Those are the groups that I own or that this teacher owns. So I'm going to show you a couple things you can do with this group. First of all, if I click it, it'll give me a little snapshot about how this group is being used. So how many messages in the group were sent, how many posts were created, what my activation rate is like. This teacher hasn't been posting a lot, but if she had, it would show which posts were the most recent or the most popular. So it'll just give you a little snapshot of how your group is using School Connects. Another thing you can do, we've gotten a lot of questions about this, is I can view my member activity. So if you are a teacher and you want to know which of your parents have activated their accounts, I'm just going to, again, hover over the group that I want to look at and then click this View Member Activity button. It is going to show me all of my students in my group. Most of them are going to have never for their last login because most of your schools do not have student accounts enabled. And then it's going to show me each of their guardians and when their guardians have last logged in. Now, again, this is a demo. I'm actually going to go back and pick a different class to look at that's more representative of a real class. Okay, here we go. This looks better. So it'll show me each of their guardians and when they've last logged in. So if there's multiple guardians, it'll show each of them. And this is a great way for you to know who is getting the information that you are sending. And it's also going to give you an idea about if you want to resend invitations. Like I said, you as a group owner can resend invitations at any time. And I'm just going to go back to the Groups tab to show you how to do that. So again, for any group that I own, let's just go ahead and do my class. If I hover over it, actually, I just realized something else. I'm so sorry. For most of you, as long as you have a group that is imported from Infinite Campus, which this teacher does not, but as long as you have a group that's imported from Infinite Campus, when you hover over this, you'll be able to resend invitations to just your group. So if you want to re-invite your class, when you hover over this little gear icon, you will also have a resend invitations button, and you'll be able to click that to send invitations to your classes. As far as being able to access the information that or being able to see who has accessed the information that you've posted or that you've sent, there are a couple things you can do. First of all is in messages, there are read receipts for you to see whether or not your parents have read your messages. Don't worry, they do not have read receipts. So they cannot see if you have read their messages. So if you read something late at night, we don't want you to feel like you have to respond immediately. It's okay, but you will be able to see if they have read your messages. And then in your feed, for any post that you have created, I'm just going to go down a little further to an older post. Again, this has to be for a post that you yourself have published. I can click this Read More button, and then there's this little eyeball icon. This is one feature that you have to access from the web. This you cannot do from the mobile. But if I click this eyeball icon, it's going to show me who has read and who has liked my post. So that's a great way for you to kind of get some feedback and know who is accessing that information. And that is kind of everything as far as the basics. Like I said, there is more in here just to kind of give you a little idea of what you can do. You can edit all of the groups. So like I said, we import from Infinite Campus, but if you want to change the name of your group in Infinite Campus, if you want to add a co-teacher or an instructional assistant, anything like that, you own that group. It is yours to kind of play with. You can also create a group. So if you are not a classroom teacher, but you're a staff member who isn't imported with groups from Infinite Campus, first of all, you still have access to the directory and you can still message any guardian. However, if you want to create a group so that you can send out posts, you can do that as well. I know we're not going over everything today, but I want to show you where you can find some of those resources. There are actually two places. One of them is in the OneDrive that was up previously that we can try to put in the chat box. I'm looking at my colleague to see if the OneDrive, can we put the OneDrive in just a minute, we'll get the OneDrive link in the chat box to you. But another place you can go is to our website, schoolconnects.com. And we have this resources tab right here. And this houses all of our resources. So they're pretty much the same as what's in your OneDrive. In your OneDrive, they might be a little more JCPS specific as far as the wording or the terminology, but everything is up here as well. So let me just highlight a couple things that are up here for you. One of them is the admin kickoff PowerPoint. So if you weren't able to join us on one of our admin orientations, this is the PowerPoint we use. There is also a recording in the OneDrive. If you are a School Connects coordinator, you are the one spearheading this at your school, we have a little coordinator kit here for you. These are things to kind of make sure you do in the first week or so to make sure you have a successful launch. A lot of other information. And then down at the bottom, we have additional resources. And these are step-by-step guides on how to do everything. So for example, I mentioned that you can always create a new group, but we didn't look at how to do that today. If you click creating a group, it brings up literally how to create a group with step-by-step pictures, how to do it on the web, and then how to do it on the mobile. So if you forget how to do absolutely anything, it's okay. We have these here for you. And then you can also always reach out to us at support@schoolconnects.com. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and try to just highlight a couple of the questions we get a lot. So like I said, first of all, you can reach out to us at support@schoolconnects.com with absolutely any questions, especially if you have questions that are about your specific account. That said, if you haven't activated your account yet, there might be a couple reasons why. First of all, if you are a JCPS parent and a JCPS guardian, you have probably only received an invitation for one of those two roles. It's okay, we can get you set up. You have the option to merge your account, which is what most people tend to do. If you send us an email with your name, your school, and your children's names, we can go ahead and just get your accounts merged so that you have one login. You can go to one place to get information from your child's school and to communicate with your own students' families. Also, we are working with IT to get as many role types as possible imported. That said, not every single role is being imported yet. So if you haven't received an invitation and you have a role at the school that you think maybe wasn't imported yet, that might be why. It's okay. We import weekly, so we will be doing another import this weekend. I would say if either you haven't received an invitation and you think that might be why, or if your class rosters don't look exactly perfect, that's just reflective of the data that was in Infinite Campus when it was sent to us. So hang tight. We're doing another import this weekend, and it should be updated. However, if there's anything specific you want us to check on, you can always email us, and we can look into specific things for you. I'm going to pause and look over at my colleague who says, no, there are no other questions that I need to answer. So if anyone does have any other questions, feel free to let us know. We are. Oh, I will also say we have been getting awesome messages in our support channel from you guys and from families. Families are really excited about this. We've had families reach out about like how to get Chromebooks or what grade their children are in, lots of different questions on our support desk. And we've been reaching out to the schools to make sure you guys are put in touch directly with your families. And like I said, everyone has just been such a wonderful partner. That's it.
Emily, I did want to say, you guys mentioned a link to OneDrive, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If we could work with maybe Crystal, or I don't know if you have my contact info or not. Sometimes YouTube won't let stuff get posted in the chat, and so they may have tried to post that for you, but I didn't see it. But if you can get that to us, I'll link it in the slide deck that we shared
definitely.
with everybody.
My colleague did get it in the chat box, but Crystal she tried to, and it didn't work. Crystal is actually the one who set it up. She sent us, and we added resources to it.
Okay, great. Okay.
So. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll work with her because she's on next actually. So
right.
so I think
do that. The person who was sharing their screen last, I think I saw our file up when they had it open during the last session. So
great. Okay.
It's all in that same OneDrive.
Awesome. Wow. Well, this has been stellar. So the chat support was great. Emily, your presentation was awesome. So thank whoever's there with you. Keep an eye on chat. And thank you for being with us as well.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if we've got you guys, or we may reach out again to have you guys back with us.
Yeah, that would be great.
So, but we appreciate all your support and excitement for the product. So it's going to be great. A huge remover of barriers, for lack of a better term, for a lot of our families. Well, let's see here. We will bid you adieu, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys again here soon. Thanks, School Connects team.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Have a good one, guys.
Absolutely. You too. So the NTI 2.0 website, if you guys have not yet seen that, you want to check that out. It's jcps.me/NTI. And on there you can find the family toolkit, the student toolkit, the teacher toolkit. Most everything you're going to need to navigate this 2.0 will be there for you. And we've worked hard to make sure it's as much of a one-stop shop as we can get. Lots of great resources for the curricular and instruction tools. The standards and skills are right at the top. And then we've got the student toolkit and for our families. If you want links to the presentations that we've had on the schedule today, then you can check back on the link that we continue to post in the chat, as well as on that NTI webpage. And many of those, if they're not linked yet, will be linked. Another cool thing is if you happen to miss any of this or you need to go back and review any of it, you can check out the Digital Learning channel, which is where you are now, but we break these videos up and chunk them and upload them in 30-minute sections, so you'll have the power of pause. Additionally, keep the conversation going. Join us on Twitter. Follow the hashtag JCPSDigIn and also the JCPS DigIn account for information and updates. And we're going to see now, I believe next, we've got Crystal will be back with us, and Becky. Hey, ladies, how are you?
Hey, we're back.
Hopefully you had time to grab you a snack or some water or something.
Should have took advantage of some time.
Right? I think you guys were in the chat with us, but we appreciate you. Then I'll pipe down and let you guys get down to business here. We've got building relationships with families to support with NTI with Crystal and Becky joining us now.
All right, and shout out to anyone who was on the last session with School Connects. I just want to, I am super proud and happy that our district is really just taking advantage and our families are taking advantage of School Connects. When I learned about this app, my heart went out to our families that are unable to reach out to us in their native language. So in this app, they are able to reach out to us in their native language and we can respond back to them in our language immediately. So I'm just excited about that. I'm excited that our families will keep in touch with us during, NTI. It's crazy right now. So I want them to be able to ask questions. So I'm just excited about that. So shout out to everyone that was in that session. And we are back. If you were with us before, it's Becky and myself today. Becky Getzinger is with National Center for Families Learning. And Becky, here, I'm going to turn this on. So Becky works to support our schools on family engagement with NCFL. So we are here to talk about relationship building today. And the first thing that we always talk about is just like, what is family engagement? Again, so you start off with kind of those initial levels of engagement where you might send a message on School Connect, you put stuff in your newsletter, you reach out. And some people think of family involvement and they get it confused with family engagement. So engagement is really what we're trying to go to. It's that partnership. So family involvement is still great. It's kind of like getting involved, volunteering, but really we are trying to move to where our families are our partners. We can't do this by ourselves. And right now with NPI, more than ever, it is important that we are partnering with our families. It's important that we are empowering our families to be able to help their kids at home, and that we understand what the situations are at home so that we can work with our families. And so you might wonder, like, okay, Crystal, why do we need to worry about School Connects? Why do we need to worry about family engagement? There's a lot of research around family engagement that shows that if we don't do it, honestly, we won't see the results that we really want to see. We won't see the social emotional results. We won't see the educational results. It's just all around better, obviously, to engage our families. So you might ask, though, okay, engaging families, that may not have been something that you studied in your pre-service work in college, or it may not have been something that you've taken a course on, right? So how do you even know how to engage families? But the trick is to know that it does start with you. And so when we're talking about really engaging our families, we're talking about equity, because if we know that when families are engaged, kids do better, then if we know that all families have not really had the opportunity to be engaged, we've not reached out to all of our families, we haven't differentiated, then we know that we are not providing opportunities for all families to really be engaged equitably. So we have to differentiate how we engage with our families. Another thing that's really important is to check our assumptions about our families and our students. So right now during NTI, because we can't see a lot of our families, we may assume that, oh, I've sent this email and they didn't respond. Or I called them and they didn't respond. They must not care. Well, we may not understand that maybe they've had a life situation. Maybe their email address changed. Maybe The phone number changed. Maybe, there's a lot of different reasons why families and students may or not be engaged, so we have to check those assumptions.
So we're going to talk about a couple of strategies that we can use to build trust and relationships, because that's where family engagement starts. If you think about any friendship that you have, any partnership that you have personally, you didn't jump right into that and immediately trust the person because you met them. And that's a thing we always have to remember when we're working with families. We're strangers to them oftentimes. And so we have to do things to build families' trust. And then once we build that trust, we can build relationships with families. And once we have relationships with families, then they're invested and they want to be engaged. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today, doing virtual home visits. All of our early childhood educators in Jefferson County Public Schools do home visits, but we only use them in the most severe cases with our older students. And the question is why? I mean, it's really easy to get to know kids and families by doing home visits. And now that we can do them virtually, there's really no reason not to. That's not to say that you need to visit every single family before school starts next Monday. But, it's an opportunity to get to know people. Crystal mentioned that email addresses change. When you don't hear back from people, pick up the phone and make a phone call. And if that phone number doesn't work, then try another number. And I do know from my own experiences as a teacher that sometimes none of the 5 numbers work. But do your due diligence and don't give up. Make those phone calls when you're not hearing from families. Also think about mailing things, especially if you teach younger kids. I don't know if it's as cool with middle and high schoolers, but even when I taught middle school, I mailed letters to the kids at the start of the school year. Just to let families know that you are open and want to communicate with them and want to share with them. Some of my own friends have done some really cool back to school letters where they put QR codes in them. And then when the family snapped the QR code on their phones, it actually read the letter to them in the teacher's voice. So you can use technology, you can be creative, but know that not everybody loves technology. So that paper back to school letter for that great grandma who's raising her great grandson, that really matters to folks like that. Focus your early conversations on the child and the family. There's such a temptation, especially with the orientations we're doing now, to give families so much information. This is when we're doing our synchronous learning, and this is what our asynchronous learning is going to look like. And your child needs to be online at these times, and it's going to be recorded, and you can find it here. And all of those things have nothing to do with the child and the family. So take some time to ask questions, especially if many of these students are new to you and their families are new to you, unless perhaps you taught an older sibling. So really focus those conversations on getting to know folks. So one of the things I mentioned are virtual home visits. We've actually created for you a protocol, which I'll share in a few minutes, to help you plan a virtual home visit and what that might look like. We know for middle and high school teachers, it's not realistic. If you're teaching 150 kids or 200 kids, you can't visit all of them, but you can work with your colleagues. If you have a student who will be seeing the speech therapist this year, you can ask that person to join you in a virtual home visit. If you're a middle school teacher, you all can split up the list among the grade level and each person can do, a few home visits. But it's a really good way when we're not meeting families in person. We can't have open house. There are no meet the teacher. Yes, we did drive-through registration, but how much can you really get to know a family in a drive-through line? So really think about how you can work with your colleagues. Give families choices. Some families probably aren't as comfortable with the technology. They might prefer just a phone call. Give families choices about time of day. Ask families about their preferred language. If possible, especially with our middle and high school students, include the child. It's a great idea to get to know kids with their families. Focus on listening. Ask really broad, open-ended questions. You'll see in the protocol we've created that it's, tell me about yourself. Tell me what works for you. Tell me what doesn't work for you. so that you can spend your time listening instead of talking and responding, so that you can learn about the children in your classes, and you can learn about the families that you're working with. Another strategy are family orientations. I know lots of you are already doing those. Lots of my own friends who are teachers have been doing them, and lots of my friends who are parents have been doing them. A lot of people have done them as whole class. The thing about whole class orientations is it doesn't provide a lot of opportunities for asking questions. If parents are a little shy or a little unsure, they might not be willing to type in the chat box or unmute themselves. So if you can provide some small group opportunities, great idea. Again, work with your colleagues. If families have to attend 5 different virtual orientations for their middle schooler, that can be a little overwhelming. So how can you share information so that families only have to attend so many different events? Again, give families choices. I know most of you are recording your orientation so that families can go back and watch them, but make sure you share information with families about how to access them. And remember, some families, the technology is the biggest barrier. They need you to walk through things. I was telling Crystal that I did some teacher PD this summer, and I asked the teachers to create a Flipgrid. And I literally had to write out like an 8-step, step-by-step, because one of the teachers had never used Flipgrid and she was really intimidated by it and she just couldn't figure out how to do it. But I gave her written directions, 8 steps, and gave her some screenshots, and she was totally able to do it. But she just needed a little bit more support from me. So don't assume that kids don't want to do things or families don't want to do things. Remember that the technology might be a barrier. Focus on the immediate. What do families need to know now? And what do families need to know later? So try not to overwhelm. I always say to give people information in digestible bites. If you throw everything at people right away, a few things are going to stick, but not everything. We know that about our students as well. So focus on the immediate and know that you might have to follow up. Just because you said something about schedule and your family orientation doesn't mean there aren't going to be 15 questions about schedule, or somebody didn't understand it, or somebody missed it. So just like we do reteaching with our students, know that you're probably going to have to do some reteaching with their families. They're not necessarily going to get it all at once. And then think about how you can differentiate for families. I think as educators, we have gotten to a point where we do such an awesome job differentiating for our students. We learn about student strengths, we meet them where they are, we try to make them be successful. And then when we think about family engagement, we do the same thing for everybody. It's one of the things that's nice about School Connects is it does allow us to differentiate things like language or even who gets what messages. But think about how you can differentiate for families. If most of your families know how to use Google Classroom, then you don't need to hold a whole class step-by-step orientation on Google Classroom. You need to offer it and invite, the 5 or 6 families who've told you that they're really intimidated by it. So different opportunities to meet different people's needs, not just everybody getting the exact same thing. Really think about scheduling. I've seen some of the school schedules where all of the online sessions, they're all during the day. And if parents are working, it makes it really hard for them. They're always the people who are going to be watching the recordings. They're not going to have those opportunities to ask questions in person. So really think about your scheduling and think about how you can differentiate for the families in your class while also still maintaining the expectations for the school district. Think about differentiating resources. Some families may need help with accessing food. Some families, if something doesn't happen really quickly, some families are going to be evicted on September 1st. And so be aware that, not all families need those resources, but communicate with your families and find out what resources they need so that you can support them. And so really think about, what does each family need? How can I support them? How can our school community support them? Because it's not just up to any one individual teacher. It's leaning on your colleagues.
And I'm going to even share something right on this slide too. I think I might be echoing. Am I still echoing?
A little bit, but it's not terrible.
Okay. I had a parent that reached out to me, and this parent needed to, just be walked through. They had cognitive disabilities, and so did their child. So they reached out and really wanted just someone to walk them through step by step how to get started. So shout out to Melissa Spade on here right now, who mentioned she did the virtual home visit and she was able to get a lot of details. So my question is this too: when we're trying to differentiate, how do you even know how to differentiate? How do you all as teachers even know where to start? So how would you know that a teacher or a parent would require, would want email or would prefer text? Like, how do we even know that? So it's kind of a rhetorical question, but the reason why I ask that is when we start to reach out in our preferred method, if we're not asking teachers or if we're not asking our families what they prefer, we may be missing the mark. So that was kind of why I was asking that.
Yeah, it's what I said at the start. Like, we start by talking and giving people information, and we really need to start by asking. So asking, do you prefer an email or a text message, or do I need to call you? I mean, think about the people that you all each know individually. I mean, my dad is 84 years old. He is never going to learn how to text, and he's never going to learn how to email. Like, I've given up at this point. If I need to reach my dad, I have to pick up the phone and call him. And so realizing that we have a lot of different family members raising kids. And so finding out what families need and what works for families. And the only way we can do that is by asking questions. So the next thing we're going to chat about is the support opportunities that schools have. Crystal's office has worked really hard to make sure that we are providing school support around family engagement wherever the families are. So we started this partnership between JCPS and NCFL 2 years ago. And for the first 2 years, it looked exactly the same. And we had family engagement leads at every school. And we heard feedback from a lot of people in schools who said that it wasn't working as well as it could. So we have tried to respond, just like we hope you all will respond to families' feedback. We tried to respond to you. And so this year we've created 3 different levels of support around family engagement. And we're sharing this with you because some of you might be asked to participate in one of these levels. And some of you might even want to talk to folks at your school about participating in one of these levels. So level 1 is for all schools. Anybody is eligible to participate. Once a quarter, Crystal and I will do a webinar focused on family engagement. We might pull in some community leaders and some family members to support with that, but we want to share information around best practices. We've also created a family engagement resources folder on Google Drive, which I'm going to share with you in just a minute. We do have the District Parent-Wide Advisory Council. That's a place where everybody in JCPS can help us because we're always looking for members. Every single school, we hope, can have a member. Last year, we had 56 family members who were super active in the Parent Advisory Council and participated in monthly meetings. And then we also actually have a family engagement Facebook page. If you are not following it, it's JCPS Fam Engage, and events and activities are posted on there. And then we also each month do a Facebook Live session where parents can ask questions. Crystal did one last week with Renee Murphy around NTI 2.0. So great information to have. Level 2 is targeted support. It's only for 35 to 40 schools. Schools do have to submit a Google form requesting to participate, but we'll provide extra support to you. We'll provide trainings, we'll provide some small group meetings, we'll provide some coaching to support your school in setting goals around family engagement that can really impact student performance and academics. And then level 3 is much more intensive. It's only for 12 schools. And we'll actually do training for an entire family engagement team at your school. The great thing about level 3 is that it comes with some funding. Schools that participate in level 3 will get some funding from NCFL to support family engagement events at their school. So information went out to last year's family engagement leads on Monday. And then information is going out to administrators later in the school year, or not school year, later in the week, hopefully, or maybe next week. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, talk to some folks at your school and see how you all might participate or take part in this support. And the last thing I have to share with you are available resources. Last year when NTI started, one of the things that Crystal and I worked on were creating resources. We know you're busy, and so we want you to have access to different resources, and so we made some things for you. So if you pick up your phone now and open your camera, you can scan that QR code and then just click on the link and it will take you directly into this public resource folder. I'm actually going to step out of this PowerPoint and go into that folder so that I can show it to you. There are several different folders. There's one of communication resources. There are some sample school-wide communication logs. There's one on writing for families. Has a lot of tips that folks don't often think about. If you're writing directions for assignments and you expect families to follow them, it's really important to do things like avoid jargon. One of my friends contacted me because their teacher told their kid to create a KWL chart. I know what a KWL chart is because I have a background in education, but my friend didn't. So I had to explain that to her. So making sure that you're giving people step-by-step directions, that you're using bullet points like I did here, and that you're using, bold type for the most important words. So it's just a quick one-pager that you can share with anybody at your school to help you all think, as you're writing for families, what might that look like? Whoops, I just accidentally closed my drive. Let's see if this link actually works. Thank you all for being patient. There's also a folder of feedback forms. There's a student exit slip. And the great thing about this is that anybody who accesses it should have editing rights. If you don't, request them and it will come to me and I will give you editing rights. But you can actually make a copy of the student feedback exit slip and you can just use it with your own class if you move it to your own Google Drive. So again, we're trying to save you time by giving you some resources that you can use. One of the ones that I mentioned in the presentation was the protocol for virtual home visits. This is in here as a Word document so that you can make a copy of it and feel free to edit it. But the top of it is some planning tips. And then after the planning tips, there are some specific questions to ask families that are general. There are questions for the adult family members as well as the kids. And then there's also a place for you to take some notes and note what kind of follow-up is needed. One of the things Crystal mentioned is making sure you're sharing with your colleagues, what you've learned about families. And so that provides an opportunity for you. If you fill out this form, you can share them with everybody on your middle school team, and then you all can all look at them and have access to them. The PowerPoint slides from today are in here. There's also a checklist that we made. Like I mentioned, Crystal and Renee did a NTI 2.0 Facebook town hall last week. And while they were on, we had over 200 families across the district who participated. And so I was monitoring the questions, and these are actually some of the most frequent questions that parents ask in that town hall last week. So if you have not done your orientation, or if there are things on here you didn't cover in your orientation, these were some things that families were interested in. One that really caught my eye is that we had multiple families ask about dress code and school uniforms. They wanted to know if when their kids were online, if they needed to abide by the school dress code. And so just knowing that those are the kinds of questions that families are asking. There's also a resource folder if you were on the School Connects presentation right before this. We've downloaded a bunch of School Connects resources here as well. One of the nice things about School Connects is they're awesome about translating things. So in this folder, there's a PDF there for people, and they're all translated. So with that, I will say Does anyone have any questions? But then I will also say that I have lost the chat box. So if you do.
I think I've been keeping up with, or trying to keep up with quite a bit of the questions as they've been going along. And one last thing I did want to mention, and I wanted to point out to a lot of our teachers and those listening right now, is your idea of parent and family is going to be very different during NTI. There are going to be a lot of our community organizations that are supporting students right now. So just keeping that in mind, that when you're thinking about parent, it might be grandmother, it might be uncle, it may be Shiny Boys and Girls Club. So the idea of families definitely looks different during NTI and beyond.
Yes, there are lots of different people who are going to be supporting students. A friend of mine posted pictures on Facebook of grandma school because her mom is actually pulling all of the cousins together in one house to support all of the cousins, and it's grandma school. And so they had their orientation for grandma school yesterday. So do know that it might be that you're being contacted by people who aren't just a child's parent or guardian.
I just wanted to chime in and tell you guys how much we appreciate the emphasis on that. You know, everybody's got their own story, but, you know, I was always very sensitive to that as a young man from my own situation. So when I started to teach, that was important to me. And you guys really are making sure that's clear, that everybody's family looks different. Everybody's community looks different. All their supports might not be what we had envisioned. So thank you for bringing that to light and making sure we're all aware and, you know, again, sensitive to that for the students. So.
All right, well, we appreciate you having us, and we appreciate you all giving us this platform to share in this NTS space. Go digital learning.
Hey, Crystal, you know what? I got to give you a quick aside, Crystal. So I've been sitting here watching you on the Digital Learning Channel, and I'm like, man, she looks so familiar to me. What? And I thought, well, I've seen her on the Digital Learning Channel. Well, you're my neighbor from Edwards. So I was new last year. I know. Anyway, one of these days when we get back to normal, we'll catch up in person.
I know. High five, bump, something.
Right. Well, you guys have a great weekend. And again, thank you for being with us today.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Becky. So at this time, we're going to turn it over to the superb screencast to engage all learners with Michelle Shorey and team. It looks like we've got Molly, Drew, Amy. Who else is on here? Another Amy. Oh, we're flooding with Amy's. What a good
Chandler.
Hey.
Chandler, we are so excited. Are we the last show before the long weekend?
Well, you are. And there's been a lot of good content, but you know, you guys are near and dear to my heart. We had to save the best for last. So I'm sorry if the other presenters are still on.
So I've tuned in a little bit. I saw a fabulous show at 11 o'clock with Drew and Elizabeth from our team. Yes. What other shows do I need to see today? Were there some? Did you get to watch some? I mean, all of them were good, but is there something that you think this ESL team needs to watch?
I don't know specific. Well, actually, yeah, I'd say the School Connects one. If you guys missed that, because it's got the language translation feature baked in like every nook and cranny, so the teachers can send messages out. You know, that was always a challenge for me in the classroom, was the families of some of those English language learners and, you know, some of the ESL students was trying to communicate back home, and they want to, and I wanted to, but, you know, there was only like one interpreter in the building. It was difficult. This School Connects tool, man, you guys have got to check. That's a game changer. So.
There's something called talking points that I may have investigated a little bit this summer, you know, that I looked into a little bit, and it was really great. And I was sad that we were using something else, but every training I've done with School Connects, everything I see, you know, is exactly what I thought talking points could do. So I don't see anything in there that it can't do. So I'm really excited. Although it's, I was hoping for a different tool. I think this one's awesome. I just didn't know about it, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. Their support's been great. So you guys, your team, and anybody else watching, be sure to go back and check out the Power of Pause, the episode that we will upload later from earlier. But anyway, enough from me. You guys lay something new on us. What do you got?
All right. So before we get started, we're all going to introduce ourselves really quickly. So you guys know me. I'm Michelle, and I work with the high school team. And this is my 8th year with the ESL office.
I'm Amy Whitehead. I am an elementary ESL resource teacher. And gosh, Michelle, I think I'm just 1 year behind you with the office. But
Yeah.
16 in the district.
Welcome, Michelle and Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Callisti as well. Both Amy's here today. I'm also an elementary ESL resource teacher. Been working with JCPS. This is my 16th year too. Goodness.
Right. Well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm Drew Courtney. I am a high school ESL teacher, first year. And I was on here earlier, so I kind of feel a little famous now. That's my second digital learning show of the day. So I'll be around for autographs afterwards.
Go more Mustangs, by the way.
Yes.
Our colleagues.
Yes, always a Mustang.
Yep.
And I am Molly Lang. I am a middle school ESL resource teacher. Started in this role in February, so I got about a month in of real life before we switched over to all this NTI craziness.
And Molly, thank you. I also got to give a shout out to Miracle Middle Schools as well.
Yes.
We're on that team together now. All right. Well, thank you, guys.
All right. So I'm going to be the producer today. So I'm going to screen share, and I'm going to go up to these 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner and share screen. And you know what I like? I like a lot of things about you guys, Chandler, but I really like that you always turn on the captions. You know, that ESL people. Do you know how much we love that?
Well, I hope quite a lot. I hope it's helpful.
And are you guys getting some screen here?
And I got to tell you, Michelle, now that you mentioned that you're going to be doing the production today, my expectations are very high. But yes, we see your screen.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So again, we just introduced ourselves, and we've been talking about a lot of tech tools and how to get going with a certain tool, but this is tool agnostic. We just want to show you how to make better screencasts. We know that screencasts are really going to help us out during NTI 2.0. So this show is just all about how to make them better so the kids will actually watch them. And I'm going to let Drew take it away.
All right, so before I kind of start talking about what is a screencast, we want to get some conversation going in the chat because we are all about interaction. So we kind of just want you guys to think about what have you all used a screencast for? Because we all know that screencasts are nothing new, especially in this day and age. If we want to learn how to French braid someone's hair, we usually go on YouTube and there's always a screencast. Your refrigerator is making a funny noise, so we go online and you can usually find a screencast of someone explaining kind of what's going on. So we know that a screencast is basically when you are recording your screen and sharing it with others. So kind of when we started NTI 1.0, that was kind of the go-to for a lot of teachers, myself included. Where we need to go on there and kind of explain what was going on. We explained the work. We kind of gave feedback. We gave tutorials, how can you guys access certain things? So it kind of was a great way for teachers in a virtual setting to kind of explain and show step by step what students needed to do. And then when we think about this as like for diverse learners, screencasts are great because because in screencasts we can.
I'm going to take away their answers. We wanted them to guess, right, Drew?
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Can you give some ideas, you guys in the chat, of why you think screencasts would be great for diverse learners? Hey, this is just like class, you guys.
I was gonna say that was always the hardest part in life, like that sweet spot where like there you gotta wait it out. You gotta wait it out.
The wait time. So what do you think, Chandler? What are some reasons you think screencasts would be great?
Well, sometimes the you got different type of learners. It's like me personally. Somebody asked me just the other day, "Hey, can you fill out some interview thing?" I said, "I'll send you a video." So I sent them a video of me talking about something. It was just more convenient for me. I feel like I express myself better that way, and I think a lot of our students could be the same way. So
sweet. You want to give them the answers, Drew?
Yes, I think we can. So some things that why screencasts are great or good support for diverse learners is that we can embed scaffolds into screencasts. There are some great tools and some great ideas out there about embedding questions, just so that way when your students are following screencasts, they have something to be looking for while they're watching the screencast. It's also great because we have the power of pause. So students can pause and rewatch screencasts if they need to. It's also great, especially in a virtual setting, for teachers. If students are confused, we always kind of say, go watch our screencast first. I explain step by step. And then if you're still confused, then come for us with questions. So it's great for students to kind of go back and rewatch things if they get confused, or later on down the week, they can't remember what to do. So it's always great to go back and they can pause and rewatch it. And then if you upload your screencast to YouTube, you have all the tools that YouTube has with the closed captioning and the adjusting the speed, which we are actually going to talk about here a little bit later. So speaking of screencasts, we have a lot of different options. Most of us are probably very familiar with Screencastify. That's the one that even all employees here in JCPS, we get unlimited screencasts with Screencastify. But there's also a couple other ones as well that some people use. There's Screencast-O-Matic, there's Loom. But really the main thing about this is that we kind of learn now, especially with NTI 1.0, that screencasts are the real MVPs of asynchronous learning. So now I'm going to turn it over to Amy, and she's going to share how we can plan your superb screencasts.
Thank you, Drew. Sorry, it took me a sec to unmute there. So the thing about planning with screencasting is that it can be really tempting to just record something on the fly. But trust me, you're going to want to take the time to really plan it out. Otherwise, you will do it multiple times. I can speak from experience. I thought I was going to make a quick screencast, and I probably recorded it 10 times before it was exactly how I wanted it to be. So we want to help you not do that by sharing these tips. So Jennifer Gonzalez from Cult of Pedagogy has this really great information about building instructional videos, thinking about it as equal parts planning and recording, and then the rest is just sharing and enhancing. And when you think about when you plan for face-to-face instruction, it's really no different. You spend a lot more time planning and researching and gathering materials than you actually do delivering the content. So if you think of it that way, building videos is just a natural part of teaching. Okay, so the first thing you want to think about is, what is your purpose? That will really determine the layout or the format for which you want to record. Here we go. So on Screencastify Unlimited, we have a couple different options here. You want to think about, do you want to only show one browser tab? Do you want to record your whole desktop for maybe showing how to navigate to something or using something? Or maybe you just want to use your webcam and only record yourself making a welcome video, for example. I did that earlier. And on the browser tab in the desktop, you have the option, you see it there, to embed webcam. You can toggle that off and on. If you want to make the emphasis on your navigation, or maybe include your video at some points throughout the video, you have that option to turn that off and on. Okay. So the next piece we have here is putting together your visuals. Again, that's going to depend on your goal and what are you trying to convey to your students with this video. Do you need to use icons? If so, which ones are a really good match for the content you're delivering? Is clip art a better option? Maybe you want to use GIFs to show a moving image of what a particular vocabulary word means. Maybe you want to demonstrate, like I mentioned before, navigating to something. So maybe you customize your cursor to really emphasize your clicks or draw attention to certain things on the screen as you're moving through it. So that visual piece is really super important in your planning and thinking through it. Next, you want to make sure that you're balancing new information and examples with as little text as possible. So if you think about, maybe you do want to show them some sort of document, but really who wants to watch a video of somebody reading an entire document? So going back to that, visuals are important. Have it, you want to have an anchor and just as minimal text so that kids stay engaged during your video. The next piece would be thinking about deciding on guided notes versus slides or PowerPoint to deliver your content. Guided notes may be the actual video that you create where you're modeling how to use them and giving that as, and then later on, you can use guided notes as another piece of your asynchronous lessons. Amy will talk more about that later on. Whereas slides, if you really want to focus in on delivering that content and teaching them something new, maybe your video is just focused on the slides. Okay, and the last one, I highly, highly recommend creating a script for your screencast. This goes back to my experience where I recorded something multiple times because I thought I knew what I wanted to say, but it didn't flow right in the video. So, and again, especially if you're going to show how to navigate to something or through some sort of program or modeling using digital manipulatives. Maybe you need to show them how to do a Jamboard activity that you're going to assign asynchronously. Timing your words with a click may seem simple, but it's really worth scripting and taking the time to think that through. So next, if you guys have any other planning tips, please make sure to share them with us. That list is not everything. Next, Michelle will share the next 2 ideas for making your screencast superb.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, so we know that kids have short attention spans. So check out this bar graph from Cult of Pedagogy, and you can see that after about 6 to 9 minutes, attention spans really start to drop. So when you're making these screencasts, you probably want to keep them short. And if you have a lot of information you need to teach, I think it's a good idea to chunk that information. I think you guys are really smart to just have 30-minute shows on the channel, and not have like hour-long, 2-hour-long presentations because we know our attention spans are really, are short. So that's going to be important. Also, when you're doing these, you want to use a conversational tone. You might actually want to speak a little bit faster than you usually speak because for some reason in video, slow speech can sound extra monotone. And when you're doing a screencast, you can still interact. You can still pause, tell people to think about things. So it doesn't have to be you just talking the whole time. And that's going to be really important because screencasts are so amazing because that's how we harness that asynchronous time, right? That's what we can do. We can give kids the information, let them front load, watch the video, learn something. That way, when they come to synchronous sessions with us, they're the ones doing the talking. They're the ones doing the learning. And we want to make sure that we're really using that time together for kids to talk. And I don't know, Amy, Drew, Molly, Amy, what do you guys think about using those synchronous sessions for English learners, especially to talk and to practice?
Yes, it is definitely necessary, especially for newcomers who are just now learning English.
Yeah. And by having these screencasts, they can watch the video multiple times. And, one of the things you can do is if your video is in YouTube, you can see how many times kids have watched it. So that's really helpful data for you as a teacher. Okay, our third tip, personalize your screencasts. Khan Academy is amazing. And John Green has some amazing videos where he teaches some concepts called Crash Course. Those are awesome. Kids can learn a lot from them, but they don't want to watch them. They want to see their teachers. They want to see inside your homes. They want to see what your hair looks like. They want to know what's going on in your world. They want to connect to you. It's interesting. My daughter is going into 6th grade, and her teacher would send recordings of their Google Meets, and she would watch them over and over because she just enjoyed seeing her teacher. She's an only child, so that was really special. So ways you can personalize, and of course, include your face. And Amy Whitehead showed you different ways where you could put your face on the side of the video. Wear something fun, make it exciting. And you know what? Embrace imperfection. If your dog barks, if your child walks in the room, those are actually really funny things that kids are going to remember. That's real life. So leave that stuff in. And you know what? Even include your pets. Bring your dog into class. Let kids show their pets. That's going to make the videos a lot more personalized. So bringing in things, showing them, your pet, so that when you do have a synchronous session, they can do something like that is really important. I also like giving shout outs or feedback to kids in those screencasts so they know they're fresh and you made them for them that day. And saying things like, Happy Friday, we made it, or, Motivational Monday. Those can really personalize those videos. This is an example that Drew and I were co-teaching summer school together, and we got this really cool template from Slides Mania. And basically every day for their asynchronous work, we had directions of what they needed to do. But every day we included a short screencast video of just, a minute or two describing the directions so that they could hear it. Because when we give oral directions, we actually say a lot more, and we give little details that we don't have in written directions. And those can be really helpful for English learners. When they can see our faces and our gestures, those are going to help English learners, but really they're going to help all students. So Amy Callisti is going to give us some more tips on how to make those screencasts interactive.
Yes. So idea 4 is to make it interactive. When we incorporate more interactive opportunities into our screencasts, students are less likely to be those passive receivers of knowledge and more of an active participant. And that's what we want, right? If we spend a whole bunch of time and effort into the delivery of our lesson, we want our students to pay attention and learn. So I want to know, how can we make our screencast more interactive? What ideas do you have? I want you to type your thoughts and ideas into the chat, and we'll talk about those as we go forward. Well, let me go ahead and share some ideas that I had thought of to make this screencast more interactive. First, using prompts or visuals. Using prompts and visuals is a superb way to screencast. Why? Well, for demonstrations. Demonstrations are far more effective than just sitting and telling. So if I want to show my students how to do something, for example, it makes sense to actually use the actual item within your screencast. And if you don't have the object, use a picture. This is a great scaffold for English learners since they are able to connect with the object to the vocabulary word. This is especially true when teaching abstract concepts. Another way to make your screencast more superb is to embed questions into your video by adding comments and quiz questions into the timeline. One way to do this is with Edpuzzle. One of the most popular aspects of Edpuzzle is that you can prevent students from fast forwarding through your video. And isn't that great? While Edpuzzle is a great tool to embed questions, it's not the only way. Just simply generating prompts for discussion or pausing to reflect within your screencast is a quick and easy way to make it more interactive. Another idea I thought of was just using graphic organizers or sketching. As students are navigating through your video, consider having your students draw or sketch something related to the topic, or have them complete a graphic organizer that's related to your talking points. Amy Whitehead mentioned about guided notes, and I'm going to share a little bit about that. Guided notes is another strategy that increases engagement and participation during your screencasts. With guided notes, the instructor provides some type of outline of the material to be covered, but with space left for students to complete key information. So take a look at this example that Michelle pulled up of using a guided note during your superb screencast. I really like how in this example, the guided notes are broken into subheadings, making it more organized as they follow along. Even having opportunities to draw what you're teaching is a great way to monitor student understanding. And using Jamboard, for example, is a great idea of how to do this digitally. And so finally, again, incorporate other digital tools into the framework of your screencast. Jamboard and Google Forms is a great idea of how we can make our screencast more interactive and more superb. Now I'm going to go back in the chat and I'm just going to see, does anybody else have any ideas or techniques that they think would be a great way to incorporate more interaction?
Steve, yeah, I see Steve Durham is talking about adding images and videos from other sources.
Of course, Stephen. Yes, so true. We need to have multiple modalities because all of our kids learn in different ways, of course.
Okay.
Well, great. Well, thank you. So now I'm going to turn it over to Molly, and she's going to give us another tip of how to make our screencast more superb.
Thank you, Amy. Idea number 5 that we have for you all today is to upload your screencast video to YouTube. So once you've recorded your screencast video, it gives you a couple of different options for how you want to save that video. You can download it to your Google Drive, publish to YouTube, share to Google Classroom, get an embed code. We recommend that you publish the video to YouTube as unlisted so that students need the link to view your YouTube video. But if you publish the video to YouTube, students have access to some advanced features that they wouldn't have if you just embedded your video from your Google Drive. So in this example from one of Michelle and Drew's summer school lessons, you can see they uploaded their screencast video to YouTube, and students are now able to turn on closed captioning by clicking there. And then they can also translate those closed captions into numerous languages by going to settings, subtitles, and then auto translate, and they can choose from a variety of different languages there. Another cool feature if your video is uploaded into YouTube is in settings, if you go to playback speed, you can actually slow the video down. So if they are filling out a graphic organizer or some guided notes like Amy suggested, and they need to hear the information a little bit slower, they have some speeds there where they can slow down the information. Or if they have to get to work and they're trying to watch a video quickly, they could up the speed to 1.25 to get it done a little bit quicker. Another cool thing about uploading your video to YouTube is it allows you to get a transcript of those subtitles. So if students want to go back and read the information either, they can click there and click open transcript. And sometimes it takes a while to generate. That one was pretty quick. So it gives you timestamps and what those closed captions were. So students have an entire transcript there that they can go back, practice those reading skills, and gain that information that way too. And then we just have a couple of additional tips for making your screencast superb. Get a halo light or face a window so that you have natural lighting and your video is bright and your students can see your face. Use a microphone or earbuds so that way the sound that's being picked up is more you and less of your dog in the background, like happens to me in my videos. Place a sticky note by the camera. So if you are making a script for your video, like Amy White had suggested, placing that script on a Post-it note next to your camera so that you're making eye contact with your students while still reading your script. It helps make it sound a little less robotronic and less like you're reading off of something to the side like this. Begin and end with your face. So students are interested, they want to see their teacher is behind the camera. That increases their engagement and their buy-in because it's you and you're their teacher. So if you begin the video with your face, hello, happy Thursday, and end with your face. That's really going to increase that student engagement and help you build a connection with them. And then lastly, embrace imperfection. Like Michelle said earlier, if your kid runs in the room or your dog is barking at the mailman, embrace that, leave that stuff in your video. Students want to see that we are human too. And smile, because it's one of the only ways that we're able to connect with kids during NTI 2.0. Unfortunately, we're not able to see them in person right now. So letting them see that you are a human and you are happy to see them, even if it's virtually and even if it's asynchronous, is going to make a big difference. If you're interested in a deeper dive into Screencast and Screencastify, you can go to Screencastify's website to learn how to become a master screencaster or a Screencastify certified genius. There's courses and you can earn digital badges online. And then also, if you go to the website of the Modern Classrooms Project, you can sign up for a free course and become certified there as well. So we're going to leave you all with this graphic on how to create superb screencasts. And the bit.ly is there included in our slides, but it basically just gives you an overview of the 5 ideas we have in order to make a screencast superb. And then our additional tips are there at the end so that you have something to take with you after today's session.
All right. So what did you guys think? Chandler, do you think those things would help teachers?
Absolutely. Definitely. That's some awesome resources. And I like you guys touched on some of the professional certificates that are available with some of them as well, the Master Screencaster and all that stuff. So very cool.
So I've recorded a screencast with you. So what do you think was a top tip? What is something that we tried to do when we made our screencast?
Gosh, I think I liked some of Amy's pointers about, I think we're like, it's, it's fine. And then you sit down and it's like, oh, man. Yeah. So definitely trying to kind of put it down first, give you something to go off of. It was helpful. So thank you for bringing that up again, Amy.
Yeah. Well, that's all we've got for today.
Well, guys, we appreciate all the tidbits, all the participation from the chat, and you guys, the whole crew joining us. It was great to see some new faces and to see some familiar faces alike. So we appreciate all of your enthusiasm and the time you took to present with us today. So have a great weekend, guys. And
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll be seeing you virtually here soon.
Yeah. Is it quitting time?
It's just about. I'm gonna rattle off a few more pieces of info, and then we're gonna sign off. This was the last NTI 2.0 airing. I feel like a station going off air now, so it's a little bittersweet.
Well, we are honored to have the final spot.
Oh, there you go. Well, guys, if you have not yet joined us at the jcps.me/NTI NTI website, you will see that on there is a schedule, which of course now is moot, but on that very schedule you will see links to today's presentations. If they're not linked there just yet, do check back and let us know if you need access to them. We'll work on getting those added as we receive them. We do have some Mondays coming up that have recently been announced. So Monday, August 31st, September 4th, 21st, that schedule is continuing to be filled. We know for sure right now we have Savas, which is going to be a tool that we're using here very soon, and then the School Connect for teachers. We'll also have Twitter. We can keep the conversation going there if you would. If you guys will chime in on that JCPS Dig In hashtag and follow the JCPS Digital Innovation Twitter account. We're always looking to shout you out and keep ideas flowing back and forth and all around. Michelle, your team, the ESL team, is always great about sharing out there with everybody, so we appreciate you guys doing that. Also, don't forget, the Digital Learning Channel is a great, not only live option for you, but repository, giving you the power of pause. So hop on there, check out all the playlists we have available. We take these, and we'll take this session too, and we'll break it up into its own little episode, and you can get on when you're ready. And again, that'll give you that power of pause if you want to go back if you've missed anything. While you're there, if you don't mind subscribing, that'll give you updates whenever it's time for us to go live again, or if we are going to upload one of those videos. And so, that'll help kind of pepper in some educational content with all the cat videos you might normally see. But we appreciate you guys joining us. Thank you so much for sticking with us, sometimes 8 to 4:30 or so in the afternoons, depending on the content. You've been a great audience, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.